Chapter 735. Yi Hua was dumbfounded. Not only was Yi Hua stupefied, Lai Gu was also stupefied, the four brides were also stupefied, everyone was stupefied. There was really someone who objected. Yi Hua was just asking according to the procedure, and in the end, there was really someone who objected to it. This caused Yi Hua's face to immediately darken. Which idiot actually dares to come and ruin my place? And at this time, the expressions of Kai Yun and the others who were seated below changed drastically. The voice was all too familiar. Sky Red. Although white bones could not be seen at the scene, his face was full of shock. Who would have thought that cerulean red would really come? Aren't you a little too daring? Don't you know that His Honor is the one presiding over the wedding? Why didn't you have such guts in the past? Aren't you courting death? The expressions of the subordinates changed in an instant, and they were filled with murderous intent. Who the hell would dare to cause trouble in such an environment? Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji both appeared very cold. This is such a joyous occasion, and there are still people who came to make trouble. As the groom, Lai Gu clenched his fists tightly, and killing intent immediately burst out. Stealing a wife was like killing one's father. Yu Hua's face darkened slightly. Although it was just one word, Yu Hua could still tell who it was. Sky Red. Reverse, another voice rang out, and it was filled with incomparable determination. And this figure also appeared, walking in the middle of the aisle paved with white flowers. Yi Hua's brows were tightly wrinkled as he looked at Sky Hong, and then he looked towards Kai Yun. His intentions were very clear. What does your subordinate mean? How dare you make me lose face? Yes. Tsang Kong Hong finally finished his sentence, but no one laughed at him, because everyone was confused and even shocked by Tsang Kong Hong's ugly behavior. This person's appearance was so ugly, yet he still dared to kidnap the bride. Don't you know what you're doing? Moreover, Tsang Kong Hong was considered one of them. Their own people smashing their own place. Could it be said that His Honor is not good at disciplining his subordinates? There is actually someone who dares to brazenly snatch a marriage. This was completely not putting the supreme sovereign in his eyes. Kai Yun was anxious. She had not expected that Tsang Kong Hong would really dare to come and snatch the wedding. She had thought that things would get better after today. In the end, not only did he not get any better, but now he was courting death. Luo Ho shouted at Tsang Kong Hong, "What are you doing? Come down quickly." Wild Sand was silent, as if he could understand Sky Red's feelings. The fact that Tsang Kong Hong dared to come here today meant that he had cast aside his own life in death. He would either succeed or die. Kai Yun shouted out angrily. This was the most evil curse that came from his race, the curse that caused Blue Sky Red to be unable to speak continuously. The moment he spoke, his soul would be burned. He might even die. Yi Hua looked at Blue Sky Red, who was kneeling on the ground. Yi Hua's expression was still gloomy, but he didn't say anything. After finished speaking those two words, Blue Sky Red's forehead was already filled with sweat, and even his tiny eyes were bloodshot, and his entire body was trembling. I like Yu Hua. Blue Sky Red was basically roaring at the top of his lungs. Those two words represented his love for Yu Hua that had lasted for over 10,000 years. At the same time, those two words were also burning Blue Sky Red's soul. Fine cracks appeared on his bronze-colored skin, and golden flames were burning within those cracks. Blue Sky Red lowered his head and clenched his fists tightly, enduring the pain of the curse. All of this is worth it. For some reason, some people started to admire this ugly man. Although they didn't know why he was in pain, his courage was commendable. When Yu Hua heard Blue Sky Red's confession, she was completely stupefied. Why would Blue Sky Red like me? I actually don't know about it at all. Lai Gu was also very shocked. I have been pursuing Yu Hua for a year, and I have never even seen blue sky red before. I am completely unable to feel any hostility from blue sky red. However, today, you came over and said that you like my wife. Are you crazy? Right now, blue sky red was indeed crazy. Yi Hua was very shocked. This blue sky red actually likes Yu Hua, and even came to snatch blue sky red's wife without any regard for his life. I remember that in the past, Lai Gu liked Brett too, but Brett liked Ju Tian. After Lai Gu realized this, he didn't continue pursuing Yu Hua. However, this blue sky red was clearly unwilling to give up. Blue sky red. Do you want to die? Kai Yin shouted out coldly, and concern could be seen within her eyes. She knew the consequences of blue sky red's actions. Blue sky red was basically using his life to confess. Flag, master, let subordinate finish speaking. Blue sky red said gravely. Along with blue sky red's words, the cracks on his skin gradually expanded, and those eerie golden flames actually started burning out from his skin, causing everyone to feel extremely terrified. Chapter 736. Li Hun saw the flames under Tsang Konghong's skin and said absent-mindedly, This is a mystical flame. Everyone at the table frowned at Li Hun's words. And when Yi Hua saw it, he revealed a surprised expression. Previously, he heard from Yi Zizi that the sky crimson was a ball of fire. He thought that it was just an ordinary elemental fire. He never would have thought that sky red's true form was actually a ball of deviant fire, and this deviant fire was currently devouring his true form. The life form of the heavenly flame. This is a race that Yi Hua has never seen before. No wonder I heard from Kai Yun that this blue sky red is the leader of the 5 flags. At this moment, Moonlight finally spoke. Little Red. Stop talking. Yu Hua shouted at Tsang Konghong. Over the past 10,000 years, Yu Hua had treated Tsang Konghong as a close friend, a good friend who could be said to be sincere. However, she had never thought that they would develop into a couple. This was not a problem of blue sky red's ugliness. It was a matter of whether she liked him or not. If she really liked him, Yu Hua wouldn't mind pursuing him. They were just good friends. But now that Tsang Konghong had broken this relationship, their relationship would probably be strained. After all, everything can be said in private. His honor is presiding over my wedding, and it's even my wedding day. Isn't this the same as ruining things? The main point was still the kind of reckless destruction. It was equivalent to saying that if you didn't come with me, I would die in front of you. It was extremely extreme. However, if one were to look at the problem from Tsang Konghong's point of view, then the situation would be completely different. He was not trying to blackmail Yu Hua. He just wanted to speak his mind, no matter what the outcome would be. Because he had been holding it in for over 10,000 years. Hearing that Yu Hua seemed to be concerned about blue sky red, Lai Gu felt a bit uncomfortable in his heart. After all, Yu Hua was the woman he liked. Which man could stand his woman getting involved with another man? Although Lai Gu was a little angry right now, it was not to the extent where he would lose his rationality and blame Yu Hua. What do you mean? Yi Hua asked gravely. Yu Hua immediately prostrated herself on the ground and said respectfully, Your Honor, blue sky red is a kind of curse that one is born with. One's speech cannot be coherent, and if one's speech is coherent, the deviant fire within one's body will cause a backlash. A deep look could be seen on Yi Hua's face. The curse that seemed to be simple was actually the most vicious one. He couldn't even finish his sentence. Who could endure such a curse? No wonder Tsang Konghong spoke so slowly. It was because of the curse. Yu Hua, I am asking you, do you know about this matter? Don't lie to me. Yi Hua questioned coldly. If Yu Hua knew. Before I settle my personal matters, I agreed to Lai Gu's marriage proposal. This is a kind of deception. It was better not to have such a woman. Your Honor, subordinate doesn't know. If subordinate knows, I will definitely tell you clearly. Yu Hua said sincerely. Hearing what his wife said, Lai Gu slightly heaved a sigh of relief. So it turns out that Yu Hua doesn't know about it, then it must be Tsang Konghong's wishful thinking. Everyone finally learned the truth. They suddenly realized that Tsang Konghong, who was kneeling on the ground, was very pitiful. He was still suffering from the searing pain. This was the burning of an exceptional flame. It was not something an ordinary person could endure. At that time, when Yi Hua was fighting against Yi Zizi directly fainted from the heat. Now, Blue Sky Red was still holding on. This kind of infatuated man caused the females in Voidless Realm to exclaim in admiration. Although he looks ugly, his heart is good. In actuality, Tsang Konghong's facial features weren't very bad. The main point was that other people's facial features were scattered, while his facial features were squeezed together. His eyes were also very small, and if he were to go out at night, he would definitely scare people to death. Hearing what Yu Hua said, Yi Hua nodded his head. Lai Gu, who was at the side, helped Yu Hua up and asked with concern, "Are you all right?" Lai Gu, "I'm sorry." Yu Hua felt that she had to take responsibility for such a thing. She made her husband lose face. Lai Gu laughed, it's fine as long as I explain it clearly." Towards Lai Gu's magnanimity, Yu Hua felt that she didn't misjudge Lai Gu. Regarding this farce, Yi Hua was also very helpless. Not punishing Tsang Konghong doesn't seem to be a bad idea. As for punishing Tsang Konghong, this Tsang Konghong is also a sentimental person. For the sake of the love of his heart, he didn't hesitate to let the exceptional flame backfire on him. Exceptional flames aren't anything fun. Tsang Konghong. You have also heard what I said just now. I am also a magnanimous person, but I cannot let you off lightly. You will properly reflect on yourself for 3 years in South Wuchi Realm. This punishment was undoubtedly the lightest punishment, and it was basically the same as not punishing Tsang Konghong at all. In any case, Tsang Konghong had been staying in South Wuchi Realm all this while. Kai Yun hurriedly gave his thanks. Your Honor has bestowed blessings upon me. This subordinate cannot thank you enough. I haven't finished. However, just when everyone thought that the farce was over, Tsang Konghong spoke again. It was another 5 words, but the cracks on his skin were getting bigger and bigger. Even the golden doubt was coming out. The temperature at the scene rose sharply. You can't afford to offend an honest man. When Kai Yun heard this, he wanted to kick someone. In the past, no one chased after Yuehua, and you didn't chase after her. Then, when Yuehua was chased by someone, you still didn't chase after her. Now that Yuehua is going to get married, you come here and act like a madman. However, everyone was curious as to what Tsang Konghong had to say. Since such an infatuated man had to endure the pain, they decided to let him finish. In the past, Yi Hua felt that a man who was infatuated with love was a sign of weakness, but now, he didn't feel that way anymore. At that time, when I was in conflict with Qingye and the others, I was also like that. Only someone who is deeply in love would be like that. The scariest thing was to fall in love with someone you shouldn't love. Speak. If you're done, get out of this sovereign's sight. No matter what, this Tsang Konghong still dared to offend the Supreme Overlord. The Supreme Overlord naturally didn't have a good expression on his face. Qingye and Dongwang Baiji thought that Yi Hua was going to fly into a rage again, but this time, Yi Hua didn't fly into a rage and even let Tsang Konghong finish speaking. This was rather surprising. Lai Gu was changing. Wasn't Yi Hua also changing? He was becoming more and more humane. Enduring the burning of doubt, Tsang Konghong slowly stood up. Every single movement of his seemed to be able to cause this 2 meters tall giant to fall down. Tsang Kong Hong had also heard Yuehua's words just now, and this undoubtedly gave Tsang Kong Hong another ruthless stab in his heart. However, this time, Tsang Kong Hong didn't cower. This was just like that sentence. I, Tsang Kong Hong, am a famous person. Not to mention, I like your wife. Tsang Kong Hong finally saw Yuehua, who was wearing a wedding dress. Yuehua is truly beautiful today, so beautiful that I feel suffocated. During the past month, how could I not have imagined myself wearing a groom's attire, tightly holding onto Yuehua's hand, and saying words of protecting her? However, today, I am not the groom, I am just a person who made his honor and flag master lose face. Yuehua. This was the first time that Tsang Kong Hong called out Yuehua's full name. Although Tsang Kong Hong's appearance was ugly, his slightly magnetic voice was exceptionally pleasant to the ears. Adding on to the atmosphere, Tsang Kong Hong sounded very miserable. Some of Voidless Realm's little girls were moved to tears. What a man who is infatuated with love. If there is a man who treats me like this, I will not hesitate to marry that man. However, the crack on Tsang Kong Hong's body became bigger once again. Asking for votes. Chapter 737. Kai Yun didn't stop Tsang Kong Hong this time. Some things can only be relieved if they are spoken out, if they are kept in their hearts, something bad will happen. And looking at Yuehua, it seems like, sigh, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have acted in the first place. Yuehua, who was wearing a white wedding dress, looked at Tsang Kong Hong, who was not far away. As a friend, Yuehua was worried for Tsang Kong Hong, but she was already Lai Gu's wife today. Therefore, Yuehua didn't want to see Tsang Kong Hong suffer like this. In terms of time, it was 10,000 years in 1 year. This was a very terrifying difference. However, when the person that was fated to appear, it had nothing to do with time. The entire place was silent as they listened to the words of this infatuated man. Yuehua let out a breath, then waved his hand, and an ice-cold mist enveloped Tsang Kong Hong, reducing his pain by a bit. As a leader, one must have dignity. One must also have compassion. Only then would one be able to convince his subordinates. Tsang Kong Hong also felt the chilliness on his body, and he thanked his honor for letting him finish speaking. I feel very inferior, because I look ugly, and speak slowly. Everyone who sees me will reveal fear. Yuehua, you are the first girl to speak to me. You didn't look down on me. I. Speaking up to hear, Tsang Kong Hong's voice began to tremble intensely. Because he spoke too much, the deviant fire on his body became even more vigorous, as if it was going to burn Tsang Kong Hong. Yuehua didn't want Tsang Kong Hong to suffer a backlash from himself. After all, Tsang Kong Hong was a humanoid deviant fire, and it was worth studying. Thus, Yuehua took out a set of profound ice armor from his storage ring and placed it on Tsang Kong Hong's body. This set of armor was able to slightly resist against the deviant fire, but it wouldn't be able to last for too long. Although Tsang Kong Hong's words were intermittent, the meaning that he was trying to express was clear. Toward such an ugly man, it was normal for him to feel inferior. For a girl to take the initiative to talk to him, this was a kind of charity for him. This was a form of charity for him. Under such circumstances, how could Sky Hong not like Moonlight Flower? Looking at Sun Fong, even she was moved. Sun Fong felt that Tsang Kong Hong was truly pitiful. The only girl that he talked to is going to marry someone else today. Who else would talk to him in the future? Everyone present suddenly felt that Yuehua on the stage was a scumbag. How could she not want such a good man? This was the first time that Yuehua heard these words, and she was very surprised. I didn't expect that I have such an existence in Xiao Hong's heart. Some misunderstandings were accumulated over a long period of time. Furthermore, Sky Red had been a coward for 10,000 years, making it even worse. If he chased after her for 10,000 years, he would make a girl feel dead. In the beginning, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji felt that Sky Hong was here to cause trouble. However, right now, they no longer thought so. This was a very stupid man, so stupid that people could not bear to see this scene. Lai Gu was also shocked by this man in front of him. If this matter didn't happen today, perhaps Yu Hua would have been his wife. Fortunately, it didn't happen in the past, but today. Tsang Kong Hong, you are a brave man. I, Lai Gu, admire you. However, Yu Hua is now my wife. I will treat her well for the rest of my life. Other men can forget about touching her. White Bones and the others who were standing below the stage were also very depressed. If you had said these words earlier, you and Yu Hua would have had a child. After putting on the profound ice armor, Sky Hong looked much better. However, it could be seen that the shiny platinum profound ice armor was showing signs of turning red. This meant that the abnormal flame was currently corroding the cold air that the profound ice armor was emitting. No matter what, the profound ice armor was a prehistoric artifact that Yi Hua had collected, and it would at least be able to last for 1 minute under the influence of the abnormal flame. Firmness blossomed out from Tsang Kong Hong's small eyes. Yu Hua, if there comes a day when you remember who had liked you before, that person would definitely be me. If there comes a day when I no longer like you, that person would definitely be me. These were the most complete words that Sky Hong had ever said in his entire life, and they were also the most sincere words. Even if Yu Hua were to get married today, Sky Hong would still like her. This heart of his would never change, unless he died. Crack. The prehistoric artifact, profound ice armor, suddenly let out a loud sound, and cracks actually appeared on the surface of the armor. The entire armor suddenly exploded, and Sky Hong's body was instantly enveloped by the abnormal flame. A terrifying scream of pain burst out from Sky Hong's throat, and the golden abnormal flame rushed straight into the sky of voidless realm, forming a golden pillar of fire. Although the scene was very spectacular, everyone's heart was heavy. Many girls were sobbing, and even Zishan was crying in Yi Hong's embrace. Because Sky Hong's matter made Zishan think of her and Yi Hong's experiences. They were also husband and wife that had been tempered through life and death situations. Regarding what Sky Hong said just now, it was also very moving. Although it was a bit silly, it was also a type of obsession towards liking someone. That was why obsession was a very scary thing. It could allow a person to become strong, but it could also instantly destroy a person. Looking at the abnormal flame that was rushing into the sky, Yi Hua's brows tightly wrinkled. This can't go on. Just as Yi Hua was thinking of how to deal with the situation, Yu Hua suddenly stretched out her delicate hand, and a pillar of water suddenly attacked towards Sky Hong. Such a scene caused everyone to exclaim in admiration. This man is fire. And that woman is water. Fire and water. They are fated to not be together. Water is Yu Hua's life form, and if she were to fight against the abnormal flame like this, she would definitely be injured. However, it seemed like this was the only way to reduce the amount of the abnormal flame and allow Sky Hong to keep his life. Yu Hua. Lai Gu cried out in surprise. Because when he saw Yu Hua, he felt a bit uncomfortable. Yu Hua looked at Lai Gu and said tenderly, Lai Gu, Sky Hong is like this because of me, that's why I am doing this, can you understand me? No matter what, Sky Hong and Yu Hua were both members of Five Flags Academy. Even if they weren't husband and wife, they were still comrades and friends. How could Yu Hua possibly watch as Sky Hong was being devoured by the abnormal flame? Lai Gu let out a heavy breath, and I understand. Lai Gu, thank you for being able to understand me. Yu Hua, you are my wife now, there is no need to be so polite, right? And I won't be polite to you in the future. Yuhua smiled gently, then began suppressing the terrifying abnormal flame with a serious look. As the leader, Yihua definitely wouldn't sit by and do nothing, and Kai Yun was the same as well. Under the cooperation of the three of them, they were finally able to suppress the abnormal flame within Sky Hong's body. However, that strong body of Sky Hong seemed like it was going to split apart, and it was being connected by strands of spiritual energy. Your Honor, please allow subordinate to bring him back for treatment. Kai Yun hurriedly said. Yihua waved his hand, indicating to the other members of South Wuchi Academy that they could return back. While carrying Sky Hong, Guang Sha and Luo Ho disappeared from the wedding venue. Chapter 738. Lai Gu lightly hugged onto Yuhua, while Yuhua tightly hugged onto Lai Gu. Actually, a loose man would only become a completely different person once he had someone he liked. He would be extra considerate and take care of his wife. This could also be considered a transformation from a boy to a man. The current Lai Gu was like this, giving people a kind of steady feeling, not the kind of feeling of a prodigal son who could entrust his entire life to others. Yihua took a deep breath. The nature of today's wedding has completely changed. I, the Supreme Overlord, don't know how to continue. It seems that next time, I, the Supreme Overlord, should just sit down and watch. It was really unbearable to host a wedding. Cough. The wedding is just a form, everyone, don't mind these details, having a perfect ending is the best. Yihua forced himself to talk awkwardly, and after he finished speaking, he felt that it was a bit low, and it didn't conform to the style of the Supreme Overlord. Your Honor, Yuhua shouted out lightly to Yihua. Yihua went into a daze for a moment, but he still passed the microphone over to Yuhua. Yuhua left Lai Gu's embrace and looked at the man in front of her. I really don't dare to believe that he is a dragon. Just look at the scene earlier, if it was a dragon, the dragon would have long turned hostile and not recognized the human. However, Lai Gu didn't do so, and he was still taking care of his own thoughts. This was a dragon that cared about relationships. Towards Red Sky, Yuhua only had a friendship of over 10,000 years. But towards Lai Gu, it was a kind of love. She handed over the rest of her life to Lai Gu, spending the rest of her life together with him. Yuhua believed that Lai Gu is a good man. Lai Gu, I want to marry you, are you willing to marry us? Yuhua was still very smart, and she took care of the other three women. Lai Gu was very excited, because Yuhua said that she wants to marry him and become his wife. It was worth it. Everything was worth it. I'm willing. Lai Gu let out a long roar, and faintly, a dragon's roar could be faintly heard as it shook the sky. Bang bang bang. Under Wei Chang's control, fireworks blossomed in the sky of Voidless Realm. Suddenly, Yihua snapped his fingers. Voidless Realm could be seen gradually being enveloped by darkness. Meanwhile, Yihua walked down the stage and tightly hugged onto Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi. In actuality, Zhang Konghong's words just now had touched Yihua's heart. Back then, this sovereign was also a street rat, the kind that everyone would beat up on seeing. I never thought that such a day would come, nor did I have any extravagant hopes. However, the heavens are not unkind to me. My beautiful wife, my adorable child, and my loyal subordinates have all been given to me. I, the Supreme Overlord, am simply too outstanding. I love the two of you. Yihua hugged onto his two wives and said slowly while looking at the beautiful fireworks in the sky. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi went into a daze for a moment, then immediately after, they smiled. This moment was truly too blissful. We love you too. It was very rare for Yihua to talk about love, but when the atmosphere was right, he couldn't help but say it out. At this moment, Brett was hugging absolute heaven in his arms as he looked at the fireworks in the sky. Just now, absolute heaven had remained silent. He seemed to have seen himself in sky red. Only when he lost something would he know how to cherish it. Losing Brett at that time was indeed very painful, but fortunately, he exchanged his life for it. Lifting his head slightly to look at Brett, absolute heaven suddenly hugged Brett's face and kissed him. Brett was stunned for a moment, and then he smiled. It sure isn't easy to be able to be together with absolute heaven. It's a pity that Sky Red can't be together with Yuhua. I hope that Sky Red will be able to meet a girl who truly likes him in the future, because Sky Red is a handsome man in his heart. Face lovers, please take a detour. When the fireworks finished, Voidless Realm lit up once again, and Yuhua shouted out loudly, "Send them to the bridal chamber, then make a scene in the bridal chamber." The entire place was filled with shouts, especially that, "Make a scene in the bridal chamber." It simply exploded. The interlude just now was indeed depressing, but under Yuhua's guidance, the atmosphere quickly became better, and the wedding proceeded as per normal. After making a scene in the bridal chamber, the newlyweds naturally had to be given some space. Lai Gu's 3 wives were still very sensible, and they gave this moment to Yuhua. After all, it was their first time doing it, and Yuhua naturally had to do it in a good environment. Lai Gu and Yuhua could be seen sitting on the bed. Lai Gu's fingers were trembling. In the past, he would often just directly pounce onto the other party and use all of his strength to do it, not caring about the other party's feelings. However, when facing Yuhua, Lai Gu had all kinds of worries, fearing that he would hurt Yuhua. Right now, Yuhua was also very nervous. She slightly lowered her head and waited for Lai Gu. However, 30 minutes passed by. Lai Gu still did not move, and was currently letting his imagination run wild. However, Yuhua could not take it anymore and asked lightly, "Lai Gu, is it inconvenient for you today?" Hearing Yuhua's question, Lai Gu was stupefied. "Inconvenient? Ah, no. Lai Gu hurriedly said, feeling that his IQ was not enough. "Then why are you?" Yuhua asked shyly. "How can I let a girl start this kind of thing?" Lai Gu hurriedly explained, "It's not that, I am a bit nervous, I will go to the toilet first." Without waiting for Yuhua to speak, Lai Gu slipped away, leaving behind Yuhua who was sitting stupidly on the big red bed. On the night of the wedding, the groom used the excuse of peeing to abandon his beautiful wife. This is too awesome. Lai Gu stood outside the door and gasped for breath. Why am I so nervous? This is completely not in line with my personality. After calming down for a long time, Lai Gu finally stabilized his state of mind and walked into the room again. Yuhua could be seen lying on the bed, and her wedding dress had already fallen to the side. Lai Gu swallowed his saliva, very excited. I am finally going to offer my goddess, who would be able to understand this kind of excitement? Mustering up his courage, Lai Gu walked to the side of the bed and saw Yuhua looking at him shyly. However, just as Lai Gu was about to say something, his eyeballs almost popped out. Another Yuhua could be seen appearing on the blanket. This. Not done yet. Immediately after, another Yuhua appeared. Lai Gu felt that his heart was about to jump out. Yuhua truly understands me too well. Yuhua, who was in the middle, could be heard asking shyly, Lai Gu, is 3 enough? F***K. I am actually able to marry such a sensible wife. I did not waste my 1 year of chasing after you. Enough. Lai Gu didn't know what to say anymore. The 3 Yuhua could be seen sitting up on the bed and carefully undressing their husbands. Lai Gu was stupefied from start to finish. This is the first time I saw Yuhua acting like this. I am very embarrassed. However, I was pushed down by them, so exciting. I feel that I am even more blushed than his honor. Needless to say, Yuhua was indeed a little bit envious of Yuhua. Yuhua is not an ordinary woman. Marrying one of her is equivalent to marrying 100 women, who would have the ability to do that. Lai Gu is the real winner in life. The wedding finally ended, and everyone's lives returned back to normal. Those who were not strong enough would start training, those who wanted to give birth to children would use a bit more strength, and those who wanted to drink more tonics. However, to Yi Hua, the boring days had arrived again. I really want to die. Chapter 739. Since he was going back, he had to make a series of plans. Plan my ass. Do I even need a plan? If you're not satisfied, then let's fight. I have so many powerful subordinates, so why should I be afraid of those people from the Kangluo continent? 4 years later. At the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, Qi Shuwen was currently sitting in his dragon palace and looking at a piece of jade tablet in his hand. This was a gift from the system a year ago. According to the system, this thing could lead to a vast world where experts were as common as clouds. It was a world suitable for cultivation. After Qi Shuwen obtained this jade token, he did not rush to leave. Instead, he thought about it for a year. What were the benefits of leaving and staying? Although this place was small, at least there was a place for him to stay. If he went there, he would not know what was going on and would be beaten to death. But after a year of consideration, Qi Shuwen decided to go to a wider world. There is no end to training. The resources here are more or less all used up, but they are still too scarce. The most important thing was, for such a powerful expert to appear in such a small place. Voidless Realm and South Wuchi were simply unable to contend against such a powerful expert. Thus, it would be better for Voidless Realm and South Wuchi to go to other places and dominate the world. Looking at the jade token in his hand, Qi Shuwen frowned. He crushed the jade tablet. Qi Shuwen and the entire dragon palace could be seen suddenly disappearing at the bottom of the sea, as if they had never appeared before. In a mountain village in Thailand, Xayan Ba slowly exhaled and opened his eyes. The changes of 5 years had made Xayan Ba look more masculine. The muscles on his body were very uniform and had an explosive effect. Master, we should be able to return now. Xayan Ba felt that he was almost done with his cultivation. He couldn't always hide abroad, right? That would be too unmanly. We're going back, but we're not returning to our country, said Feng Lao faintly. Then where are we going? Xayan Ba was puzzled. Old Feng said in a deep voice, under the highest god's realm, there is a vast land called Kangluo continent. The restrictions here are still too small. You should go there to develop. Kangluo continent. An alternate world? Xayan Ba asked curiously, his eyes flashing with excitement. It seemed that Xayan Ba was also a very competitive person. You can understand it this way. That place is full of danger, but it's also full of opportunities. However, it's just a stepping stone for you. Old Feng's words made Xayan Ba very excited. He wanted to become stronger. At that time, he would not be afraid of anyone, nor would he be threatened by anyone. Master, I'll listen to you. All right. Shinba, you cultivate well. Master will protect and escort you. Thank you, Master. Master's enmity is the disciple's enmity. As expected of my disciple. The two of us will go to the Kangluo continent. As soon as Crazy Elder stopped speaking, Xayan Ba's figure disappeared from the small rundown house. In the office building on the top floor of the Peace Association, Lord Jiu was playing with Xiao Bao. This was the golden retriever that Bai Cixin had bought back then. It was now 5 years old, and its golden fur was shining. Lord Jiu had fed it well. Lil Bao, it's been 5 years. My Peace Association has been going downhill. Sometimes, I really want to give up. Lord Jiu rubbed Lil Bao's head. Lil Bao looked at his master and stuck out his tongue. Xiao Bao, how about we change a place to live? It's really tiring here. Lord Jiu let out a deep breath. He seemed to be very tired and wanted to change a place to live. Woof. Lord Jiu laughed. Xiao Bao, do you have the same idea? How about we leave now? Let's go on a trip when we want to. Woof, Lord Jiu patted on Xiaobao's head, then took out the cosmos sack that Qing Tian gave him back then. Within the cosmos sack, there was a small box, and within the box, there was a piece of paper and a mirror. Lord Jiu had seen that piece of paper 5 years ago, and it had been destroyed long ago. The rough meaning of the piece of paper was that this mirror was a teleportation artifact that could only be used once. As for where it could be teleported to, Lord Jiu had no idea. Because Lord Jiu was now a loner, and if one were to talk about the person that was closest to him, it would only be Xiaobao. Life is very gloomy and boring. I might as well go to another world and take a look. I might as well bring Xiaobao out to relax. Whether or not I can come back is no longer important. Lord Jiu placed the copper mirror on the office table and placed it towards himself. Afterward, Lord Jiu carried Xiaobao on his body. This little fellow has become quite a bit heavier. After stroking Xiaobao for a bit, Lord Jiu stretched out his finger and injected a strand of spiritual energy into the copper mirror. The copper mirror could be seen emitting a powerful radiance, which instantly absorbed Lord Jiu and Xiaobao. The radiance gradually dispersed, and there was not a single person in the office. There was only the copper mirror on the table, and the surface of the copper mirror was already cracked. Southerning family. Inkongsher stood in front of the ancient beast, heavy dust cave. Right now, his expression was very strange, and there was even a fake mustache stuck on his mouth, making him look like a man. However, today, Inkongsher was going to do what a man should do, and that was to challenge the ancient beast, heavy dust cave. If I succeed in the challenge, I will rush to Voidless Realm and propose marriage. Who cares about life and death? The person that the Empress is going to marry back then is me, Inkongsher. I am the Empress's man. With a firm conviction, Inkongsher took the first step and slowly walked down the cave. As the coldness became stronger, Inkongsher started to panic a bit. Back then, Big Brother died in the cave as well. If I were to die today, I can at least give my big brother an explanation. Empress. I, Inkongsher, am definitely going to marry you. Walking down to the underground cave, Inkongsher hugged his chest with both of his hands. So cold, upon thinking about that terrifying ancient beast, heavy dust cave, I can't help but shiver a bit. I won't be stomped into meat paste by it, right? Should I go back and think about it? After all, marrying the Empress is not a small matter. I should go back and discuss it with my Lord Father. I am still too hasty. I should go back and plan properly first. However, when Inkongsher turned around and prepared to leave, a bright red fingernail poked in front of Inkongsher, causing the entire ground to tremble. Inkongsher felt that his back instantly turned cold. However, at the same time when his back turned cold, there was also a wave of hot air that hit his back, bringing along a fishy smell. Right now, Inkongsher was panicking badly. He felt that he was going to be eaten up very soon. Who can come and save me? I, Inkongsher, am willing to do anything for you for my entire life. I don't want anything. God, quickly come and save me. I still don't want to die. I still haven't married the Empress. Inkongsher looked at the bright red fingernail that was raised up high, and it was clearly aimed towards his head. Boom! Heavy Dust Cave was a ferocious beast. It didn't have any mercy in its heart. The bright red fingernail ferociously dropped down, poking out a dent on the ground. However, when Inkongsher moved his fingernail away, he was very puzzled. Where is he? Long and City, Leisure Bar. Right now, Leisure Bar's business is temporarily suspended. The opening time is unknown. Please look forward to it. Meanwhile, in the lobby of Leisure Bar, a chilling aura pervaded the air. Yi Hua stood in front of the bar counter and looked at his subordinates. Today is a good day. Why do I say that? Chapter 740. Standing beside Yi Hua were Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi. Of course, there was also his beautiful sister-in-law. These three women were simply so beautiful that they could kill a person. From this, it could be seen that Yi Hua's eyesight was very sharp. Out of thousands of women, he had chosen the three of them. Dong Huangli was standing at the side. Right now, Dong Huangli was already more than 8 years old, and she was quite a bit taller than before. Dong Huangli was about the same height as Yi Zizi, and Dong Huangli could already be counted as a little beauty. Dong Huangli had inherited her father's good points, and if another 10 years were to pass, Dong Huangli would definitely become a great beauty. As the younger brother, Yi Yan was already 6 years old, and he was about the same height as the older sister, Dong Huangli. Yi Yan had delicate features, and there was a smile on the corner of his mouth. Dragon Abyss. At this time, Yi Yan gave off a very strong sense of affinity, just like a neighbor's little brother. He would definitely grow up to be a warm man. Meanwhile, God Yi, who was standing behind Yi Yan, was different. Although he was only 5 years old, his little face was cold and penetrating. He was exactly the same as his father, emotionless and solemn. Yi Lu, who was next to her, was the same. She was as cold as ice, as if nothing could affect her emotions. She was really a little cold beauty. Looking at the entire team, there was no change from 5 years ago. As one of the 7 deadly sins, Yi Hua's direct subordinate stood at the very front, and even Kai Yun had to stand behind the 7 deadly sins. However, they stood according to their status. In the past 4 years, all of the subordinates' families had been harmonious. There were no outbreaks of mistresses, and they were all satisfied with their current state. Yi Hua even praised Lai Gu. During these 4 years, Lai Gu had simply become a good man of the new century. In Yi Hua's eyes, he felt that Lai Gu was only 30% hot and would definitely go and look for other women. However, the truth was not like that. From what Qingye said, right now, Lai Gu is wholeheartedly treating his 4 wives well, bringing them to play all over the world, just like an underling. Furthermore, at home, Lai Gu is cooking and cleaning. In the past, Lai Gu was like a big uncle at home, but now, ever since Lai Gu got married, he had become a typical family man. For this, Qingye even asked me to learn from Lai Gu. The Supreme Overlord immediately thought to himself, what the F***K. That very night, I will call Lai Gu to go to the bar. Who knew that Lai Gu would bring all 4 of his wives out? I really want to stew Lai Gu. Now, all the women in the team only had one thing to say to their husbands. Learn from how Lai Gu dotes on his wife. Dou Fusher was very happy that he was no longer the one who stuck his head out. However, Lai Gu had an indifferent expression on his face. So what if I dote on my wife? I like it. During these 4 years, Yu Hua had also enjoyed the taste of happiness. Lai Gu was truly good to me, just like how he was when he was pursuing me, there was no difference at all. Sometimes, he would even give me a small surprise. He truly knows how to make my wife happy. If Sky Hong had half of Lai Gu's EQ, he wouldn't have missed out on Yu Hua. During the past 4 years, Tsang Kong Hong had been staying in South Wuchi Banner. Unless Yi Hua called for a meeting, he wouldn't come out. He seemed to be studying, but who knew? At this moment, Tsang Kong Hong was also standing in the crowd. She seemed very calm and there was nothing unusual about her. Yu Hua, who was standing behind Lai Gu, was also very normal. Actually, ever since that day, other than meeting each other in meetings, the two of them basically did not speak to each other. Lai Gu even generously asked Yu Hua to go and guide Blue Sky Hong. It wasn't that Yu Hua hadn't tried to talk to her, but Tsang Kong Hong wasn't willing to meet her, so this situation was created. As for Zhu Tian, he was still the same as before, lying in the bosom of his 3 wives and sleeping every day. From now on, our vacation ends. From today onwards, we will enter a state of combat readiness. Yi Hua's gaze swept across his subordinates and shouted out in a low voice. Hearing what His Honor said, all of Yi Hua's subordinates revealed out their desire to fight. They were also bored to the point that they were starting to get anxious. Because right now, there wasn't anyone who would come and provoke Voidless Realm and South Wuchi Banner. If it was 1 or 2 years, it would still be fine. He felt uncomfortable all over. His honor's announcement of his return is simply too great. That place is truly a crazy world. Subordinates are willing to follow in his honor's footsteps and exterminate all evil. All of Yi Hua's subordinates kneeled on the ground and shouted out. Yi Hua nodded his head silently. This is the aura that a leader should have. Not bad. Very good. Everyone, get up. Thank you, Your Honor. Yi Hua paused for a moment, then said again, let us shout out our slogan one more time. The hall immediately quietened down. Slogan. When did we have a slogan? All of Yi Hua's subordinates were stupefied. Even Qingye, who was beside Yi Hua, was puzzled. When did we have a slogan? Suddenly, Yi Zizi seemed to have thought of something and immediately shouted out. The team sure has a good idea. Following Yi Zizi's shout, everyone immediately understood what Yi Zizi meant and shouted out in unison. Do it steadily. Do a report every day. How can a team not be good? Yi Hua looked at his subordinates in astonishment, then suddenly clapped his hands and stood up, all right. All of Yi Hua's subordinates let out a sigh of relief. That scared me to death. We are going to do it according to this slogan. I hope that you all will remember this slogan. Subordinate will definitely memorize this slogan every day. Yi Hua paused for a moment, then said gravely, all right. Let the heavens see where we will land in Kangluo continent and what will be the first thing that we will do. Seize the palace. Dou Fushi shouted out excitedly. Li Han, who was beside Dou Fushi, immediately covered her husband's mouth. It's to win people over with virtue. Li Han laughed. Yi Hua really wanted to give a slap to Li Han. To actually dare to say seize the palace in front of my wife. Am I that vulgar? Do I even need to seize it? Do I look like that kind of man who doesn't have any dignity? Superficial. Pedantic. What Li Han said is right, I am going to win people over with virtue. Yi Hua said gravely. The first thought that emerged in the minds of all of Yi Hua's subordinates was, why don't they believe me? What his honor is saying right now should all be antonyms. When the time comes, I will just have to do the opposite. Subordinates that are full of brains are the most terrifying. Even Qin Yutong, who was at the side, didn't believe that Yi Hua would win people over with virtue. Every single time, he would use violence to conquer others and all kinds of threats. But, I just like this kind of brother-in-law. If a man isn't bad, women won't love him. This sentence wasn't without reason. When it came to a suitable amount of badness, women would love it to death. Just like Lai Gu. And Blue Sky Hong belonged to the category of honest and well-behaved people. Let's not talk too much. We will send it out now. Yi Hua could be seen slowly raising his hand. Pack! With a snap of Yi Hua's fingers, everyone in the hall disappeared. The lights of the bar gradually dimmed, and Yi Hua's vacation had ended. Now, he was waiting for his next vacation. However, everyone seemed to have forgotten about a person. Death Assassin, this skeleton that had been forgotten for close to 6 years, was cautiously guarding Long Outyin. Outside the small thatched cottage. Death Assassin was currently standing at the side and watching Long Outyin train with his sword. From time to time, Death Assassin would walk up to Long Outyin to guide him. Chapter 741. Dad, Uncle Skeleton, Mom is done cooking. A chubby little man could be seen walking out of the thatched cottage and shouting. A happy smile could be seen on his little face. Meanwhile, Meng Meng, who was inside the thatched cottage, was currently carrying the dishes onto the table with a gentle smile on her face. This family of 3 was very satisfied living here. Long Outyin kept his sword and lightly let out a breath. After training with Death Assassin, only then did he realize how big of a gap there was between him and Death Assassin. He was basically not Death Assassin's opponent. If Death Assassin wanted to, he would be able to instantly kill me. This is truly terrifying. Master, come in and eat. Don't always go back to the cottage when we are eating, you are making me very embarrassed. Long Outyin hurriedly pulled Death Assassin and pulled him into the cottage. It would be fine if Long Outyin didn't pull Death Assassin, but Long Outyin unexpectedly pulled Death Assassin into the cottage. This must be heaven's will. Death Assassin doesn't need to eat, and of course, he can't eat either. Could it be that you want me to sit at the side and watch the family of three eat? After being pulled into the cottage by his disciple, Death Assassin could only sit down. Quickly come and taste the dishes made by my wife, it's super delicious. Long Outyin was no longer the Long Outyin from back then, he seemed to have changed into a different person, he no longer had that arrogant look, and he treated others very well. The main point was that he no longer had any thoughts of having a harem, he only wanted to accompany his wife and child. Uncle Skeleton, the dishes made by my mother are really delicious. The little fellow Long Yang said while grinning, and he even placed food on Death Assassin's bowl. Meng Meng felt embarrassed by what the father and son said, it's just plain tea and plain food, wife, look at how modest you are, Master is not an outsider, what's more, isn't it great that Master is accompanying us to eat together? Death Assassin, however, just as Death Assassin was feeling gloomy, he suddenly felt a strange aura, it seems like he is going to leave this world. What's going on? Long Outyin felt the change in Death Assassin, Master, what's wrong? Death Assassin grabbed onto Long Outyin's wrist. A pair of hollow eyes flickered with red light, and his body seemed to be fading. Long Outyin, who was grabbed onto by Death Mage, was also fading. This is definitely because my master is going to leave this world, and as a summon product, I will leave together with my master. However, he still had to complete his master's orders. He had to watch over Long Outyin. Outyin, what happened to you? Meng Meng also grabbed her husband's arm. Dad, Mom, what happened to you too? Long Yang was frightened as he cried and shouted while hugging onto his mother. Looking at my subordinates, they seem to be very bored. Let's barbecue first, Yi Hong and the other tools have been brought, right? Yi Hua said faintly. Your Honor, I have brought them. Go and arrange it then. Yes. Your Honor. Yi Hong and LV Liang could be seen immediately setting up the barbecue rack. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji had a stupefied look on their faces. In the end, Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but ask, Yi Hua, are you here for revenge or are you here for barbecue? Yi Hua was currently eating skewers, it smells so good, didn't Bai Gu go to scout for intelligence gathering? Let's fill our stomachs first. Hey, Do Fusher, quickly set up the tent, we will be sleeping here today. Everyone, I feel that His Honor isn't here for revenge, but rather, he is here for a vacation. With the atmosphere of an outing, everyone started barbecuing. Furthermore, the wives of Lai Gu's subordinates were displaying their talents, the wives were singing, the wives were dancing. Lai Gu's 4 wives were incredible, they were able to sing and dance. Look at Lai Gu, this little man, after his 4 wives finished performing, there would be a bit of sweat on his forehead, and Lai Gu would immediately take out a napkin to wipe his sweat. What a good man. The sky gradually darkened, and in this desolate and uninhabited place, the bonfire seemed so bright. Your Honor. Suddenly, Bai Gu's voice rang out in the air. Yi Hua placed the beer on the ground, and his subordinate stopped chatting and stood up respectfully. Yi Hua sat on the ground and asked faintly, have you found it? Your Honor, I have already found it. There is a big family that is 10,000 kilometers away from here. Yi Hua wrinkled his brows, the closest family. Yes, Your Honor. Yihua originally planned to find the closest family to see who was the most unlucky. From the looks of it, this family was the most unlucky one. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji smiled bitterly as they shook their heads. Husband, this is really... Continue acting, let's see how long you can continue acting. The faces of the four wives were slightly red. Because they also heard the sound. His honor is really too much. He doesn't allow us to act recklessly, yet he himself is acting recklessly. Lai Gu said in a low voice. Yuhua said softly, maybe it's someone else. Just now, his honor had strictly forbade us from doing anything, who would dare to do that? Lai Gu pursed his lips. His honor is truly unable to stay calm for the entire night. Maybe it's a soul-detaching technique. The other one beside him laughed tenderly. Maybe Zishan. Bai Xiaozhen followed up and said. It seemed that in the team, these two women were famous for pestering their husbands. But inside Floating World's tent, Wandering Soul's ears were stuffed with white napkins to stop all the seductive sounds because he was afraid that he would not be able to resist it. Dou Fusha rolled his eyes. His honor is too bad. He asked his subordinates to be quiet, yet he himself, inside Yi Hong's tent, Zi Shan used her clothes to cover her face. Yi Hong was the same as well. That voice was too devilish. The four little fellows were sleeping very soundly, and thus, they didn't hear anything. When everyone walked out of their tent the next day, their eye circles were a bit dark. It was clear that they didn't sleep well. Yihua sized up his subordinates. Just who was the one who did it for the entire night? Meanwhile, when the subordinates looked at his honor, they couldn't help but admire him in their hearts. Because Qingye and Donghuang Baiji slept very early yesterday, they didn't hear what Yihua said. But today, they discovered that the gaze that Yihua's subordinates were looking at them with was different. I do not wish for what happened last night to happen again. Yihua said gravely. That person is simply shameless. The subordinates felt that his honor was the one who complained first. It was clearly us, and even his honor's wife was led astray by his honor. However, as men, they were still able to understand his honor. Just that, this kind of behavior doesn't conform to his honor style. I will personally go and take a look today, all of you, defend the battlefield. Subordinate obeys. Regarding the future headquarters, Yihua wanted to personally go and take a look. He mustn't be careless about this. Since it was going to be a big family, the area that the headquarters occupied should be very large. The 300-meter-tall city wall should not be lacking, and the dazzling and magnificent palace should not be lacking. The flourishing streets definitely should not be lacking, because only flourishing would be able to display my ruling power. Yihua, I will go with you. Donghuang Baiji said tenderly at the side. All right, Qingye, you stay behind and look after the children, don't let them run around. Yihua warned. Although he wasn't really worried about the children's safety, as a father, he still had to be concerned about the children. And, the two of you be careful. Qingye replied obediently. Yihua didn't dawdle and brought the empress to take a look at the future palace. That palace was going to be a great place in history. However, when he saw the big family, Yihua's expression became bad. 300-meter-tall city wall. I am thinking too much. The city wall is constructed using simple round wood, even the city gate is made of wood. I am thinking too much about the flourishing streets. The streets were cold and cheerless, and occasionally, a figure would appear and quickly run into a house, leaving behind deep snow on the ground. Palace. Those are just a few dilapidated houses. The magnificence of the palace turned pitch black, and you call this a big family? Big my ass. Yihua, let's go down and take a look. Donghuang Baiji suggested. How would Yihua have the mood to enter the city to take a look? This should be the smallest imperial city. As long as a wave of monsters attacked the city, this small imperial city would disappear from the map. Those people seemed to be leaving in a panic. Dong Huang Baiji pointed at the crowd that was leaving the city hurriedly and said. Yi Hua let out a breath. I didn't expect that my luck would be so bad, to be able to pick such a place right from the start. I am truly unlucky. Didn't they say that there would be nothing in this magnificent city? After landing on the ground with the Empress, the two of them stepped on the deep snow and slowly walked towards the city gate. Towards this noble person who suddenly appeared, the people that were preparing to leave sized up the two of them with curious gazes. The man was extraordinarily handsome, and the woman was so beautiful that it could make one feel suffocated. This kind of man and woman, with a single look, one could tell that they were sent down by some sect to gain experience. One cannot afford to offend them. The mink coat that Yi Hua was wearing was even more extravagant. Chapter 743. There weren't even any strong men. Most of them were old, weak, women, and children. Dong Huang Baiji was finally unable to hold back the doubt in her heart, and asked an old man who was sweeping the snow in front of his house. Hello, why are all the people here leaving the city, and I don't see many men? The old man raised his wrinkled face, took a look at Dong Huang Baiji, and went into a slight daze. From the looks of it, he was shocked by Dong Huang Baiji's beauty as well. After all, Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji's beauty could be said to be able to attract both big and small people, and anyone who saw them would be shocked. Little girl, it's not safe here. Leave quickly. The old man gently persuaded her. He withdrew his gaze and continued to sweep the snow on the ground. Just what is going on here? Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but ask again. The old man straightened his slightly bowed waist and said in a low voice, It's winter, and the evil witches often appear. The strong men in the city have been captured, and the monsters appear after winter. In the past, the Duchy of Gouda sent out troops to suppress them, but in the past 3 years, there has been no one. It's the royal family who organized the resistance. However, right now, even the royal family has run away, and this Lingtai kingdom is about to be destroyed. After finished speaking, the old man took a deep breath. I have grown up here, and I don't have the strength to run anymore. Looking at the old man's aged back as he walked into the house, Dong Huang Baiji let out a breath. Compared to this place, the people on earth are much more fortunate. At least he didn't have to be afraid. Yi Hua, how about this place be our headquarters? Dong Huang Baiji held onto her husband's arm and said. Yi Hua didn't really like this place. Although this place was big, it was too simple and crude, and it would be very troublesome to rebuild this place. Do you like this place? Yi Hua asked curiously. Compared to liking them, Dong Huang Bai would rather help these helpless people to have a good environment to live in. If they are under Yi Hua's protection, they should be able to obtain protection. In any case, Yi Hua was also planning to look for a territory. Not only would he be able to help others here, no one would snatch his territory away from him, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Will you please? Without the children by her side, the queen began to shake her husband's arm and act like a spoiled child. Yi Hua was helpless. I can't stand my 2 women acting coquettishly the most, especially the Empress. Let's go back and make a plan, then. Yi Hua said faintly. Let's go back to this place then. I, the Supreme Overlord, am here to be an emperor, so I must have the dignity of an emperor. It's just that, this starting point is too low. This place can no longer be called a country, it's more or less like a small village, and I, the Supreme Overlord, am just a village head, f*ck me. After returning to the campsite, Yi Hua began passing down his orders. As for the sound he heard last night, it shouldn't have been made by his subordinates. The Miko-sama was grabbing men, and it was obvious that she was trying to extract Yang Qi. He was already used to this kind of evil technique. As for how to become the emperor of Lingtai Kingdom, Yi Hua couldn't force himself to do it. I have to make those people beg me to become the emperor, and then, I will reluctantly become the emperor. We need actors for this. The enemy actors seem to be ready. I heard the old man say that monsters are attacking the city, so I shall take this opportunity to display my great strength. I'll let you people see that even if an ancient divine beast attacks the city, I can destroy it. The next step was to wait for the monsters to attack the city and then move into the Lingtai Kingdom's palace. However, every night, Yi Hua and his subordinates would be able to hear that n sound. If it wasn't for the fact that he needed an actress, Yi Hua would have long arranged for this witch to play the role. And from the information that Yi Hua received from White Bones, he found out that the evil witch was indeed recuperating, and judging from the quantity of the evil witch, she would be coming out to recuperate very soon. More importantly, this witch is controlling a lot of rank 1 and 2 monsters. No wonder there would be monsters attacking the city. It seems like this witch is controlling the city from behind. It is a pity that this time, you met me, and in the end, you are going to become the stepping stone for me to ascend to the throne. However, for you to be able to torture me for a few nights, you can be considered to be formidable, and for you to even make me keep you, you should feel fortunate. Finally, 8 days later, White Bones sent over a message. There was movement. The 8 days of camping in the wilderness caused Yi Hua and his subordinates to suffer unspeakably, especially those who had to exercise every single day. This was practically torture to them. After hearing that the witch had taken action, White Bones really wanted to thank the witch. You finally took action. Right now, outside of Lingtai Kingdom's wooden wall, over 100 rank 1 and 2 monsters were gathered. The small ones ranged from slimes to goblins, and there were even 1 or 2 skeletons that were holding on to staffs, undead. And standing in the air was an enchanting woman. That woman was precisely the witch that the old man spoke of. Dressed in a purple robe, her beautiful hair that was like a waterfall hung down naturally, and her slender white legs were faintly discernible. Every single movement of hers carried a seductive air, and although she was smiling, it was a cold and eerie smile. On top of the wooden wall stood a few old men that were in their 70s and 80s. Their bodies were covered in worn-out armor, and their hands were holding on to the most ordinary bows and arrows. The quiver that they carried on their backs only had a few arrows, and it was unknown whether or not they would be able to hit the enemy. The old man that was sweeping the snow could be seen as the leader of the group, and on his waist was a machete. His eyes were fixated on the monsters that were not far away from him, and of course, he was also fixated on the witch who was in the air. "Raise the flag!" The old man shouted loudly. On top of the wooden wall, 30+ old men could be seen raising the flag of Lingtai Kingdom, and the scarlet flag fluttered on top of the wooden wall. Very quickly, the pure white snowflakes dyed the scarlet flag with a layer of white crystals. "Draw the bow!" The old man shouted again. The 30 old men pulled the bow in their hands into a full moon shape. Looking at the old men on the wooden wall, Miko-sama was amused and shouted in a sweet voice, "Old men, open the gate, and I will spare your lives." "You crazy Miko-sama, God will deal with you one day," the old man shouted. Maybe it was because he hadn't drawn the bow for a long time, his right hand was trembling, and he accidentally shot the arrow. The arrow glided in the white air in a beautiful arc and firmly inserted into the ground. It was still 10 feet away from the target. Ha ha ha! Miko-sama couldn't help but laugh, laughing at these old men who overestimated themselves. Such ordinary people dared to block her way. The old man looked at the arrow, and his heart sank. The morale of the old men next to him was greatly affected, and they were very depressed. "Miko-sama, today I will fight you to the death to avenge my son." The old man pulled out the machete from his waist, pointed it at Miko-sama and shouted angrily. Miko-sama stuck out her bright red tongue and licked the corner of her mouth. "Old man, your son tastes good, very fragrant." "You!" Miko-sama stopped smiling, and a gloomy aura shrouded her face, and she shouted, "Kill!" Hundreds of monsters rushed towards the wall, and more than 30 old men began to draw their bows and shoot arrows, but such arrows were useless, they couldn't even penetrate the slime. Chapter 744. Put out the fire. Put out the fire. The women in the city carried buckets of water, hoping to put out the raging fire. However, all of these were in vain. It was only a matter of time before the monsters rushed in. The old men shot all of the arrows and pulled out their swords, planning to have a life-and-death battle with these monsters. Live and die together with Lingtai country. Looking at the ferocious monsters, everyone on the city wall revealed a look of despair. How good would it be if there were reinforcements at this time? Perhaps, the old men's prayers were answered by the heavens. The originally gloomy weather suddenly revealed a ray of light, and the heavy snow in the sky instantly stopped. Such a phenomenon caused the monsters to stop attacking, and even the witch was puzzled, thinking to herself that there shouldn't be any experts coming to this small place, right? That Gouda principality even abandoned this Lingtai country, and those sects wouldn't even bother about it. Just what is this thing? The witch was puzzled, but when the old man on the city wall and all of the women in the city saw such a spectacle, they all knelt down and shouted that the heavens had opened their eyes. Regarding such a phenomenon, it was indeed like the heavens had opened their eyes. Of course, this wasn't because the heavens had opened their eyes, it was because Yihua felt that it was about time for him to appear. After all, if he appeared at the start, he definitely wouldn't achieve such an effect. He had to give people hope when they were in despair. This way, they would be able to worship him endlessly. Don't ask why. If you watch Calabash Brothers saving your grandfather for a few years, you will also understand this logic. A ray of golden light shot out from the sky and landed on the ground. Yihua and his subordinates appeared for the first time in Kangluo continent. Although there weren't many spectators, and they weren't very strong, it could be said that they had taken the first step. The people on the city wall all saw the 20-plus people that suddenly appeared. There were men, women, and even children. Everyone was very puzzled. Just who are these people? No matter who they are, to be able to descend from the sky, they are definitely not ordinary people. They might be some powerful sects that knew that the people here were living in an abyss of suffering and sent their proud disciples to come and save them. I heard that the disciples of those sects all fly around in the sky, and in the blink of an eye, they can jump tens of thousands of feet. Right now, the witch was also sizing up Yihua and the others. This group of people looks very ordinary, and I can't feel any fluctuation of Do Qi from them. However, why is there no fluctuation of Do Qi when they descend from the sky? This is very strange. Who are you people? How dare you ruin my plans? Miko-sama shouted, looking very vigilant. Yihua ignored the witch and said faintly, "Soul separation, let these monsters recover." Yes. Soul Drifting raised a hand, and a pink mist enshrouded all of the monsters. The eyes of these monsters gradually focused on Kuroto. It was obvious that they were under Miko's control just now. The monster that had regained its sanity looked a little huge. It looked around curiously, wondering what it was doing. Yihua saw that there were even undead among these monsters. Thinking back, I was also like this back then. If I didn't work hard, I would have ended up becoming someone else's tool, and I wouldn't have been able to achieve what I have today. As an undead, how could he resign himself to fate? If he did not work hard, he would not know how great his achievements would be. Miko-sama watched Soul Drifting lift her control with a flick of his hand, causing her heart to sink. From this move, it could be seen that this woman's strength was on par with his. If these people were all that strong, wouldn't he be in trouble today? What if they were bluffing? Just to trick me away. I'm a level 1 doja, who the hell are you people? The witch revealed her strength, seemingly wanting to use this method to scare them away. In Kangluo continent, there was a division of strength. Doja, Doshur, Doshur, Do-Wang, Do-Huang, Do-Zong, Do-Di, Do-Zun, and Tianzun. Of course, there were also talented and intelligent people who were able to reach heaven's law. During the promotion to a dojo, every sect would unearth a heaven's law expert to become a heaven's law dojo. Heaven's law dojo and ordinary dojo were worlds apart. Heaven's law dojo were invincible in the same rank, and they were even able to fight against those of a higher rank. As long as one became a Heaven's Law dojo, one would definitely become popular in the entire Kangluo continent. After all, there were a lot of sects that were willing to provide resources to Heaven's Law dojo. All in all, Heaven's Law expert was a hot commodity in Kangluo continent. The number of Heaven's Law experts that died in Yihua's hands was not small. However, Heaven's Law overlord, Yihua had yet to meet someone of this rank. Because, to be able to cultivate to Heaven's Law overlord, not only did one need time, one also needed too many items. Just like playing a game, the amount of experience needed to level up a Heaven's Law overlord was 100 times more than that of an ordinary Heaven's Law overlord. Furthermore, a lot of materials were required to level up a Heaven's Law overlord, and one must know that the number of Heaven's Law overlords was very few to begin with. Thus, in Kangluo continent, there had never been a Heaven's Law overlord, let alone a Heaven's Law overlord. Meanwhile, Yihua's 4 children were definitely Heaven's Law experts. According to the division of strength, Ali at the very least had the strength of a Heaven's Law dozong, while Yi Yan, God Yi, and Yi Lu should have the strength of a Heaven's Law emperor. They did not need any items to level up, and as they grew older, their strength would grow as well. This was the benefit of being the child of an overlord. Thus, a child like Ali had long won at the starting line, the kind that was unreasonable. However, this which was just an ordinary dojo. Without the powerful resources of a sect, it was already not bad for her to be able to cultivate to the level of a dojo. However, this kind of cultivation was very evil, and it was fated to be a dead end. Yihua took a casual look at the witch. Dojo. She sure is small. Who am I? Humph. I am someone that you cannot afford to offend. Right now, Yihua did not refer to himself as the supreme overlord. Ha! Arrogant child, I see that your looks are not bad, and you are very suitable to be my medicine catalyst. Also, you men. The witch looked at Yihua and the others. While I don't have any thoughts towards women, I have a lot of thoughts towards men. Alright, I will gift one to you then, Sky Red. I will leave this to you. Yihua said faintly. There was only one reason why Yihua called Sky Red out, and that was because there were some things that couldn't be held back and needed to be vented out. This witch just so happened to be a woman that liked to tease men, and thus, Sky Red was the perfect target for Sky Red to take revenge on. I am not saying that Yihua likes to tease men, I am just feeling that Sky Red needs to vent out her anger. Yes. Sky Red replied gravely, then walked out of the group. The 2 meters tall Sky Red looked just like a small mountain, especially the explosive muscles on his body. For women that liked muscular men, Sky Red's body was practically a fatal injury. Chapter 745. Sky Hong stood at the front of the group and stared deeply at Miko-sama. He had been hearing this shameless woman's voice every night for the past few days, and Sky Hong really wanted to crush her head. She was a scumbag. Sky Hong felt that every woman he saw was a scumbag, especially those who were seductive, and he wanted to break their necks. Miko-sama looked at Sky Hong with excitement in her eyes. Originally, Sky Hong was standing at the back, and she didn't pay much attention to him. Who would pay attention to an ugly man? But when Sky Hong walked out of the group, his muscles made Miko-sama's heart beat faster. Those rock-like muscles, those perfect lines, outlined the sexiness of a man. That 8-pack was like the product of a thunderstorm, and Miko-sama couldn't help but want to touch it. Although this man was extremely ugly, as long as he had a different head, he could still be used. This was the sexiest man she had ever seen. This was true. Although Sky Hong was the ugliest man in the group, he was the sexiest man in the group, and even Miko-sama was infatuated with him. You become my herbalist disciple, and I'll spare your life. Miko-sama pointed at Blue Sky Hong and said with a smile, her eyes fixed on Blue Sky Hong's chest, abs, and mermaid lines. Sky Hong didn't say anything, and his tall body suddenly disappeared. This startled Miko-sama, and before she could react, she felt a strong hand strangling her neck. Miko-sama was stunned. What kind of speed is this? I didn't even see his trajectory clearly, it's impossible. Feeling the strength on her neck, Miko-sama quickly came back to her senses and revealed a seductive expression, am I beautiful? Slap. Sky Hong's slap landed on Miko-sama's face, and Miko-sama was stunned. Scum, Miko-sama's left cheek instantly swelled up, and her expression was very strange. My seduction technique didn't work on him. This is impossible. Miko-sama forcefully used her seduction technique and asked again, This time, she didn't finish her sentence. Slap. Miko-sama's other cheek also swelled up, and this really stunned Miko-sama. It wasn't just Miko-sama who was stunned, the old men standing on the wooden wall were also stunned. That strong man actually grabbed Miko-sama like a little chick, and even slapped her. What kind of expert was this? He actually made Dojo unable to fight back. Female. Song Kong Hong finally shouted the second word. Putting all of them together, she was a scumbag. When the people on Yihua's side heard what Blue Sky Hong said, their expressions became very strange. I didn't expect that after 4 years, Blue Sky Hong's resentment would become even greater. Yihua heaved a deep sigh. She didn't think that she would become a scumbag in Song Kong Hong's heart. Lai Gu seemed to have sensed his wife's sadness and lightly embraced Yihua into his embrace. The current Lai Gu is really a warm man. Miko-sama was obviously unaware of Blue Sky Red's way of speaking. But Miko didn't give up on saving herself. Soul-splitting palm. Miko's slender hand turned into a palm and struck Sky Hong's chest. What hard pectoral muscles. This was Miko's first thought. Song Kong Hong lowered his head slightly, and his face suddenly contorted. This woman actually touched his chest. She was indeed a shameless scumbag. Paw. This time, Blue Sky Red's strength increased a little and even knocked Miko's teeth out. Miko felt the world spinning around her, and she felt like she was about to fall into a coma. Damn it! How can this man be so strong? There's no other way, I can only use my trump card. Mystic Artifact. Rakshasa Throat Seal. This is a high-grade mystic artifact that I obtained by chance, and it is capable of sealing the throat upon contact with blood. Even an emperor wouldn't be able to save me. I have to use it today. Miko's slender hand moved, and a small needle appeared between her fingers. She then ferociously pierced towards Tsang Kong Hong's neck. Die! Tsang Kong Hong slightly frowned, and he felt an itch on his neck. When he lowered his head, he saw that Miko was actually holding a needle. She's tickling me. I can't tolerate this. Miko was stupefied. Rakshasa Throat Seal is actually unable to be pierced into my throat. This thin and small needle is actually unable to be pierced into my throat. How is this possible? Tsang Kong Hong was already extremely enraged by Miko's various teasing methods. He raised his huge palm and slashed at Miko from both sides. His mouth kept on shouting. Scum, woman, how could Miko beat Tsang Kong Hong's opponent? She was directly slapped unconscious. A golden flame emerged from Tsang Kong Hong's palm, and Miko's body was instantly devoured. In the blink of an eye, Miko's body turned into dust, and not a single trace was left behind. The jaws of the old men who were standing on top of the wooden wall almost dropped to the ground. Song Konghong's actions shocked the old men. Such a powerful Miko was actually grabbed by him and slapped by him. Then, he burned the Miko. It felt too surreal. Was this a dream or something? Only after a long time did they realize that this wasn't a dream. This was all real. Miko was killed by that man, and Miko took revenge for the men of Lingtai country. Thank the heavens for sending out such a powerful person. That damned Miko finally got her retribution. The old man looked at the 20+ people outside of the city and immediately shouted, "Quickly open the city gate, we have to properly thank the heroes." At this moment, Song Konghong walked back to the group with a stiff expression on his face, as if what happened just now wasn't done by him. However, everyone now knew that Song Konghong didn't like women anymore. His sexual orientation had changed, and he had to properly protect the men around him. Everyone turned around and looked towards Lingtai country. A country like this actually only had 100 people left. This is truly tragic. As the city gate opened, the old man brought along some old women and ran out to welcome the heroes who had descended from the sky. Benefactor. The old man brought along everyone and kneeled in front of Yi Hua. Facing such a kneeling, Yi Hua was naturally able to accept it. If I didn't appear, you all might have already become corpses. Get up. Yi Hua said faintly. As the old man stood up and sized up the man in front of him, he suddenly felt that this man looked familiar. When the old man saw Donghuang Baiji who was at the side, the old man recalled. That day when he was sweeping the snow in front of his house, they were the ones who passed by and asked him a question. I didn't expect that they would be the ones who came to save me. They are truly good people. Thank you all for saving us old men. The old man was filled with gratitude as he once again kneeled in front of Yi Hua and kowtowed. For such a good person to appear in this deceitful world is truly not easy. Yi Hua said faintly, since the danger has already been resolved, I won't be staying behind. Hearing what Yi Hua said, the old man immediately became anxious. Benefactor, please stay behind and have a meal with us. We have to properly thank you as well. It's fine. Yi Hua said lightly, pretending that he didn't want anything from the old man. The old man became silent. Yi Hua was a bit puzzled. I am being courteous, shouldn't you all continue to urge me to stay? Let this sovereign be your emperor. Chapter 746. Why are these old men so stupid? Right now is the best time for you all to hug my thigh. Could it be that you all want me to take the initiative to say it? Idiots. Yi Hua misunderstood. These people who are able to stay are all honest commoners. How would they have such thoughts? They need to be enlightened. Therefore, at this time, I need sensible subordinates to appear. Kai Yun immediately understood. Yu Hua, what do you think we should do if monsters appear again? Kai Yun said melancholically, as if he was very worried. As expected of a character in a team, if his acting skills weren't up to par, he wouldn't be able to survive. Yu Hua also immediately understood. That's right, if monsters were to attack again, I'm afraid. Sigh. After speaking, Yu Hua let out a heavy sigh. As expected. Hearing that, the old man's expression changed. Benefactor. Please don't leave. What's wrong? Yi Hua asked gravely. The main reason was because Yi Hua's performance was too cold, just like an emperor, causing people to tremble. The old man actually wanted to say that he was scared. However, upon thinking about the hundreds of lives, the old man made up his mind. Benefactor. Please stay. Protect us. I like to hear this sentence, but as a cold and aloof supreme overlord, it doesn't seem appropriate to agree to it just like this. What can you give us? Yi Hua asked faintly. What I want is the village chief. No. It's the throne. When the old man heard Yi Hua's words, he became stupefied. Give what? This Lingtai country is already broken, what can I give? The old man was a bit desperate. However, a woman at the back said, "Benefactor, if you don't mind, you can be our emperor." Following what the woman said, the hundreds of people in the surroundings all agreed. Looking at the group of old, weak women and children who were kneeling in front of him, a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. "You all finally said it, allowing me to step down. Should I try to shirk it again? Forget it, this group of honest people won't be courteous. If they really let me go later on, it would be awkward. Since you all have requested it sincerely, I will reluctantly agree to it and protect your safety." Yi Hua's tone carried an awe-inspiring aura of righteousness, as if with him here, no one would be threatened, and it gave everyone a strong sense of security. Although Qinye and Dong Huang Baiji's faces were expressionless, they were still amused by their husband's words. It was obvious that Dong Huang Baiji was dying to have sex with Yi Hua, and yet, he was still acting as if he didn't want to. However, the current Yi Hua looked very cute. Only Qinye and Dong Huang Baiji felt that Dong Huang Baiji was cute. The old man was so scared that he was trembling. However, when everyone heard that Yi Hua had agreed to stay behind, a glimmer of hope appeared in everyone's eyes. That burly man was able to pinch the witch to death with a single hand. Such a powerful figure can be compared with those sections. With them guarding the Lingtai kingdom, it was the most suitable choice. The old man immediately shouted, "Long live the emperor! Hooray! Long live!" As the old man's voice faded, the people behind him shouted in unison. Although it was a bit sloppy, at the very least, Yi Hua was acknowledged by all of the residents. Moreover, it felt good to hear such an honorific. But it was not over yet. Qinye and Dong Huang Baiji could be seen slowly caressing Dong Huang Baiji's body. When Dong Huang Baiji's subordinates saw that Dong Huang Baiji's wife was already acting like this, they hurriedly followed suit. Then they shouted in unison, "Our emperor! Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!" The shouts of the group of bug-level subordinates immediately shook the world, and the shouts could be heard from a few miles away. At this moment, the falling snow in the sky stopped, and the black clouds gradually dispersed. Sunlight once again descended, shining onto Yi Hua's tall and straight body. They seemed to be respectfully welcoming Yi Hua, the new emperor. When such a phenomenon fell into the eyes of the commoners, they felt that it was the will of the heavens, and they were even more certain that this man was made to be an emperor. To them, the throne was just an empty title. If someone was able to sit on the throne and was able to protect them, then it would be worth it. "Rise!" Yi Hua placed both of his hands on the table. At this moment, he felt really good. Especially Qinye and Dong Huang Baiji, they have given me too much face. Tonight, when I return, I will take good care of them and let them feel my boundless love. Everyone stood up, and the old man said respectfully, "My emperor, please follow me. In any case, I am now an emperor, and my style of doing things has to change as well. Directly hugging onto my wife seems a bit inappropriate, that would be the behavior of a hoodlum." Walking through the city gate, the spacious road led directly to the dilapidated imperial palace. When Yi Hua walked to the front of the imperial palace, he let out a deep sigh. "My emperor, all of the valuables in the imperial palace have been looted clean, and some of the valuables in the imperial palace are even a bit damaged." The old man was a bit embarrassed. "My benefactor saved everyone, but I am unable to repay him. After all, being an emperor here is equivalent to being a bachelor. I don't have any soldiers, I don't have any power, and the only commoners I am managing are only some elderly people. Furthermore, there are only a few hundred people in the imperial palace, and this place is no different from an empty city." Yi Hua waved his hand helplessly, and the elderly people prepared to go back and pack up. "Old man, come over, I have something to ask you." Yi Hua shouted towards the old man. The old man was startled, and he immediately bowed his body and ran over. This commoner obeys the emperor's decree. Continuing walking into the imperial palace, Yihua saw that the palace on top of the stairs was already severely damaged, and the stairs were filled with potholes. Some of the dragon heads were already gone, and only 4 claws were left. There were also weeds on the ground, and the surrounding palace was even more dilapidated. Slowly walking up the stairs, a black signboard fell onto the ground, and on the signboard, 3 big words were written, Supreme Spirit Palace. The interior of the palace was pitch black, and the interior was completely empty. The throne was gone, and the throne was moved away by someone. This is too miserable. Yihua walked into the palace and asked faintly, "What is your name?" "My emperor, this commoner's surname is Chao, and my name is a single character, San." Chao San said respectfully, not even daring to breathe loudly. "I feel that this man is very scary, but I don't know how scary it is." Yihua was very curious about a question, and thus, he asked, "Let me ask you, why is there no one who sent troops to defend this place?" "My emperor, this Lingtai kingdom is a subsidiary kingdom of Gouda Principality, and every year, they have to pay tribute to Gouda Principality. However, because the environment is getting worse and worse, the crops are not able to harvest, and the merchants are also not able to find any business opportunities. As time passes, the Lingtai kingdom declined, and the Lingtai kingdom is unable to afford to pay tribute to Gouda Principality." After hearing what Chao San said, Yihua understood. Since the protection fee is gone, the Lingtai kingdom will not be able to renew the protection fee. "What about the royal family here?" "My emperor, the royal family sold all of their valuables and escaped to Gouda Principality. Meanwhile, some of them stayed behind to fight, but in the end, they were still captured by the witch," Chao San said gravely. "In this royal family, there are good people, and there are bad people." Yihua nodded his head. "Let me ask you, where is this place? What kind of country is Gouda Principality?" Chapter 747. Your Majesty, this is the territory of the Northern Liang. The Gouda Principality is one of the 3 countries of the Northern Liang, and the 3 countries are controlled by the Tianliang sect. This information was somewhat useful. It seemed that White Bones had to go out and scout for information. "No. I can't go and inquire about information. If I, the Supreme Overlord, knew everything, wouldn't that mean that I wouldn't be able to do anything? I just want to see how my opponent is going to show off his intelligence in front of me. After that, I, the Supreme Overlord, will slap him to death. What else is there besides Northern Liang?" "Emperor, this commoner has never left Northern Liang," Chao San said apologetically. Yihua nodded his head. "Just how big is this Kangluo continent?" "I can't even imagine how big this Kangluo continent is. From now on, you will be the representative of the people. If the people have any wishes, you can look for me directly." Chao San was overjoyed and quickly kowtowed to express his gratitude. "This commoner thanks the emperor." "Get up, there's more. The name of Lingtai country needs to be changed, it doesn't sound good." Yihua really felt that the name was not nice to hear. "No matter what, this is my territory, so it should be a bit more loud and powerful." "Forget it, the name is too hard to think of. In the future, we shall be called Voidless Empire." Hearing this, Chao San was so frightened that he quickly kneeled down. "My emperor. You mustn't." Yihua's brows wrinkled. "What? You have a problem with me?" Yihua had also made a slip of the tongue and had even gotten the title wrong. The frightened Chao San did not notice and quickly explained, "Your Majesty, calling yourself an empire is a great disrespect to the Gouda Principality. Moreover, becoming an empire requires the approval of the Tianliang sect, or else it will cause a commotion. I thought it was something big, but it's just a small matter. I have made up my mind. You only need to convey the wishes of the people." You don't have to worry about anything else. Chao San was helpless. He could not persuade her no matter what. If they angered the Gouda principality, they would definitely send troops to exterminate them. Oh my God. Miko-sama had just died, he still couldn't escape death. After Chao San left, Yi Hua said gravely, Empire. I want to see who dares to provoke me. Wei Chong. Subordinate is here. Wei Chong walked out from the group and shouted respectfully. I'll leave the palace and security to you and Tang Wei. Wei Chong and Tang Wei both knelt down on one knee, and respectfully shouted, Subordinate obeys. Lai Gu. Your subordinate is here. Yu Yiran, Bai Xiaojin, Wen Xia, and Yu Hua will be in charge of Voidless Empire's defensive measures. Lai Gu's family of 4 answered respectfully, Subordinate obeys. Open clouds. Your subordinate is here. Kai Yun happily knelt down. You and your subordinates will maintain the internal security of Voidless Empire. Kai Yun, Sky Red, Wild Sand, Luo Ho, and White Bones answered respectfully, understood. Green and Red brothers. Your subordinates are here. The Green and Red brothers walked out from their ranks. I want to see a street packed with people. I don't care what you do. The corners of the Green and Red brothers' mouths twitched. This was probably the most difficult mission out of all of them. But no matter what, he had to overcome the difficulties. This subordinate obeys. Death Mage. Your subordinate is here. I want this barren land to be reborn. Yi Hua was also doing things according to his own pace. It was a bit difficult to take control of a country, so he had to take it slow. This subordinate obeys. Fighting the world. Soul detachment. Your subordinate is here. Yi Hua said gravely, I will leave the logistics to you guys. Yes. Blood demon. Your subordinate is here. Go and cook. Yes. Looking towards Zhu Tian's family, Yi Hua said faintly, Brett, you and Yizizi go and see if there is anything that needs help. Yes. Yes. Qing Yutong. Qing Yutong, who was standing at the side, was startled. It can't be, right? Brother-in-law. As your sister-in-law cum lover, I still have to do things. I can warm the bed though. Here. Qing Yutong shouted out weakly. Clean up the place. Qing Yutong, before doing these things, I wish to see a brand new voidless empire. Understand. Your subordinate understands. Go. Yes. All of Yi Hua's subordinates instantly disappeared from the palace, and a husky sat on the ground and stuck out its tongue. Yun Lang seemed to be saying, give me some missions as well. Go and clean up the demons in Voidless Empire. Yi Hua said faintly. This was to give the people a comfortable environment to live in. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to turn Voidless Empire into heaven on earth and let the housing prices rise to the peak. Woof! Yun Lang ran out of the palace excitedly. Perhaps because he wasn't familiar with the road, he was knocked over by the doorstep, then, he rolled down the stone steps. From time to time, a scream could be heard. Yun Lang fell down quite heavily. Yutong, what are you waiting for? Yi Hua took a look at his sister-in-law. Humph! Qing Yutong snorted. Even brother-in-law doesn't like me anymore. Dong Wangli shouted out, Daddy, I am going to help Aunt clean up as well. I am going too, Yi Yen followed behind his big sister. God Yi and Yi Lu shouted out as well, Daddy, let's go too. Yi Hua nodded his head, from today onwards, you all have to call Daddy Emperor Father. Dong Wang-li's expression changed. I feel that Daddy is more amiable, Father Emperor sounds a bit cold. Qing Ye smiled, alright, when we are in private, call Daddy Emperor when there are outsiders around. Qinya's idea was feasible. The little fellows did not object to it. Qin Yutong brought the 4 children to clean up the place. Empress, how do you feel? Yi Hua laughed lightly. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji pinched each side of Yi Hua. Aren't you proud of yourself? Right now, you are still a bald emperor. Bald. You all are truly looking down on me. In less than a month, this place will become a brand new empire. Yi Hua was filled with confidence. The first step of my revenge can be considered to have succeeded. You all said that sects are more important than countries, so I am going to rewrite this rule. Who dares to test my anger? Qinya let out a breath. Yi Hua lightly hugged onto Qinya. He knew why she sighed. Qinya, if you miss your parents, you can go back and take a look. It isn't difficult for you. Yi Hua said tenderly. Qinya and Qin Yutong both had their families, but Dong Huang Baiji didn't. Thus, Dong Huang Baiji was able to follow him out without any worries. Who asked me to marry you? Qinya said petulantly. Ha! Yi Hua laughed out loud. Qinya said tenderly, Yi Hua, you have to treat me and the children well. And, Qinya, you can be at ease. Towards Yi Hua's words, Qinya believed them unconditionally. Although Yi Hua likes to lie to others, he wouldn't lie to others when it comes to big matters. Let's start working as well. In any case, this place will be our home in the future. It won't be comfortable to live in this dilapidated place. Everyone began working. As an empire, they had to act like an empire. This was a very big project, and it was only natural that the number of people would be small. Thus, they had to think of a way. Chapter 748. Wei Chang and Tang Wei were in charge of the reconstruction of the palace, as well as the defense. The huge palace wasn't something that the two of them could handle, so, Tang Wei took out a piece of white paper and cut out a human figure. Wei Chang then cast a spell to turn the paper figure into a human. If he summoned a skeleton, he was afraid that it would scare the residents. After all, humans did not have a good impression of other races. The figures that Wei Chang transformed into were all wearing black armor. Their faces were all the same, and their numbers instantly reached 1,000. Under the command of Wei Chang and Tang Wei, the 1,000 black-armored guards were like blood brothers, and they started to repair the entire imperial palace. The materials were naturally prepared by Wei Chang. Meanwhile, Lai Gu and his 4 wives were standing outside of the city wall, feeling very depressed. Lai Gu didn't have the ability to transform like Wei Chang, and the 3 women were the same as well. It was just that their strength was extraordinarily strong, and they didn't know any other spells. Facing such a huge project like the city wall, they were really powerless even if they wanted to. What should we do? The mission that His Honor gave us this time is a bit difficult. Wei Chang scratched onto his forehead in melancholy. What His Honor requested is not an ordinary city wall, it must be a city wall that has a high quality. Yu Hua said softly, "Don't worry, I have a way." "Don't. My heart aches for you." Lai Gu thought that Yu Hua wanted to use her clone to do things, and thus, he immediately rejected Yu Hua. "I would rather be scolded by His Honor, but I don't want to see my wife getting tired." Yu Hua was filled with happiness, and she just liked how Lai Gu doted on her. This kind of feeling was really good. "Hubby, I'm not using a clone." Yu Hua chuckled and explained a little. "Yu Hua, I didn't know you had such an ability," he exclaimed. "Amazing." Bai Xiaozhen gave Lai Gu a thumbs up. Fortunately, there is Yu Hua who is by Lai Gu's side to provide assistance. Lai Gu didn't waste any more time, he grabbed a handful of snow on the ground and made it into the shape of a human. Then, Moonlight cast a spell, and a warrior wearing a set of white armor appeared. That mighty appearance was really frightening. This was Moonlight's powerful ability to control water. Compared to the black armored warriors, these white armored warriors were a little weaker, but as a construction team, they were enough. Lai Gu and his 3 wives began to play making snowmen, and Yu Hua was in charge of making snowmen. The intense work was in full swing. Kai Yun also brought his 4 subordinates to patrol the entire empty voidless empire. I think our department should be called Southern Wuchi. What do you guys think? Kai Yun has a good idea. This law enforcement team can also be counted as the Empire's law enforcement team. In the future, when His Honor expands his territory, the law enforcement team will become a very powerful existence. Flag Master, this is a good idea. Luo Ho smiled as he waved his white folding fan. And, when the time comes, I will go and talk to His Honor. Kai Yun had already imagined the crowds coming and going, and when he appeared, each and every one of them would have a respectful expression on their faces. How refreshing. Wild Sand, get some people out first. The few of us aren't enough to handle the renovation work in this city. Kai Yun was in charge of the city, so naturally, that included the renovation work. Scarecrow's Wild Sand pulled out a straw from its body and threw it into the air. The straw gradually turned into granules and slowly fell to the ground. One could see with the naked eye that those granules seemed to be growing, gradually growing into human shapes. The entire street was instantly filled with yellow armored warriors. Their expressions were wooden, just like the wild sand. Taking a look, this single straw turned into at least several tens of thousands of people. Under Wild Sand's command, those people immediately started working, renovating the damaged houses and so on. However, when those old men suddenly saw so many yellow armored warriors appearing on the street, they were a bit stupefied. Where did these people come from? Furthermore, looking at their tall and sturdy bodies, one can tell that they are well-trained warriors. Furthermore, they are even able to fly in the sky. This is too mystical. Right now, the entire Wushu Empire was in the midst of reconstruction. Even Yi Hua and his 2 wives were helping out, enjoying the process. Qingye was a business-minded woman, but as the Empress, it wasn't good for her to personally make an appearance. Thus, she could only ask Brett to be in charge. Right now, a lot of shops were empty, and there were still houses and so on. In the future, there would definitely be people coming over. When the time comes, I will rent out the houses. Selling them is impossible, because Yi Hua plans to turn Wushu Empire into heaven on earth. When Yi Hua heard what his wife said, he blushed with shame. Earning money is also something that an emperor should do. Qingye sure is a smart woman. The thing that Death Mage and Sun Fong were in charge of was very simple, which was to make the land fertile. An ordinary spell would do. After that, they had to make the land around Wushu Empire clean, then open a channel to bring the river over. As an empire, how could they not have a water source? However, right now, the Green and Red brothers were very depressed. Right now, they were sitting together with their wives and discussing how to make the streets overcrowded with people. LV Shu, we need local specialties. Selena suggested. Selena said, and we need to create business opportunities here and attract merchants over. Yi Hong said gravely, but the environment here isn't good, and there aren't any local specialties here either. Zi Shan slammed onto the table, since there aren't any local specialties here, we will create our own brand. Yi Hong and LV Shu went into a daze. Wife, what are you planning to do? Yi Hong asked curiously. We want to do business with women. Zi Shan thought of a good idea. Selena immediately understood what Zi Shan meant. Zi Shan, this idea of yours is too great. And, let's do that. Selena agreed. However, LV Shu looked towards Yi Hong, and Yi Hong looked towards her big brother, completely not knowing what they were talking about. The progress of the renovation was changing every single day, and the entire voidless empire looked the same every single day. Under Yihua's command, the east city wall was directly abandoned, and the north and south city walls were extended all the way to the seaside that was 10 kilometers away. Because Yihua wanted to create a port. Only by doing so would he be able to promote the development of trade. Furthermore, by expanding my own territory, this is truly a matter that kills two birds with one stone. The imperial palace was located at the center of the city. Thus, the entire imperial palace was relocated. Being strong was just that willful. It was fine for all of the streets to be widened, those kinds of things were simply not suitable to be placed here. It was fine as long as the original style was maintained. 1 month later. The work was all done. Wushu Empire's city wall could be seen to be shining with a golden light. Especially when the sun shone on the city wall, the city wall was so bright that it could practically blind one's eyes. If an enemy were to invade, upon seeing the city wall that was shining with a golden light, they would immediately be blinded by the light. Meanwhile, this wasn't just a simple city wall. There were all sorts of seals that were imprinted on the city wall. If one wanted to break through this city wall, one would require a bit of strength. If not, one might be killed by the city wall. On top of the city wall, there was a white armored warrior standing every 15 meters. The warrior's tiger eyes were sweeping across the boundless white snow. Chapter 749. The flag was bright red in color, and the design in the middle of the flag was improvised by Dong Huangli. Yihua was very satisfied with the design, and thus, he decided to use his daughter's improvised design. Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji didn't object to it. Yihua even asked someone to sew the flag with gold thread to make the effect even more obvious. The design that Dong Huangli drew was a bit interesting. 2 blades crossed each other, and on top of the blade, there was a heart. This was also what Dong Huangli wanted to express. The meaning of using weapons to protect one's home was warm, but it was also killing. According to Yihua's previous way of thinking, it would be a skull on top of 2 blades. This was his style. But now, I feel that this is pretty good. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to use absolute power to protect my entire family and my loved ones. All of the work has been completed, and now, all that is left is for the people to enter the city. However, it has only been a month, and there were only those elderly people and that boundless snowfield. This caused Yihua to be a bit disappointed. Why is there no one coming? There is actually no one coming to my territory. How is this possible? Could it be that you want me to go and distribute leaflets? Beg you to stay in Wushu Empire? Motherfucker. Yihua immediately called the green and red brothers into the palace. Right now, the palace had already taken on a brand new look. The floorboards were found by Wei Chang, and they were called 4 bluestones. The bluestones were extracted from the skin of a type of prehistoric divine beast. This type of skin would have different colors depending on the temperature. Furthermore, it would be warm in winter and cool in summer, and it was incomparably hard. It was simply the most suitable floor tile. The color of the surrounding pillars was red, but this was blood. This type of blood was also the blood of a prehistoric divine beast, and it was emitting out a strange fragrance. This strange fragrance would disturb the mind of a person. If the person was happy, the happiness in the person's heart would be magnified. If the person was afraid, the fear in the person's heart would be magnified. Of course, it was useless against people who were strong, but Yihua felt that it was a good smell. What was engraved on the red pillar was a lifelike divine dragon. This was a real dragon, and it was not an ornament. As long as Yihua gave the word, the divine dragon would become a real dragon. With just a word from Yihua, 6 prehistoric divine dragons would instantly appear on the spot. The chair that Yihua was sitting on was naturally the dragon throne. The armrests were all claws, and above the back of the chair was a ferocious dragon head. The dragon head was staring straight ahead, giving off a strong deterrence. Right now, Yi Hua was also wearing a golden gown, and he looked extremely handsome. However, right now, Yi Hua finally understood why Donghuang Baiji was so busy. Donghuang Baiji had to take care of all the big and small matters by herself. In the beginning, it was rather interesting. However, after a week, Yi Hua directly threw all the work to his two wives and went to teach the children. The green and red brothers trembled as they stood below with their heads slightly lowered. Behind them were their wives. 1 month. Why didn't I see the bustling and lively streets? I don't need to explain. What I want is the result. Yi Hua asked the green and red brothers in a deep voice. The green and red brothers didn't know how to explain this. Their wives had actually made a special underwear product. Oh my God. Their idea was really too crazy, but even if they made it, no one would buy it, so it was useless. On the other hand, His Honor had ordered that advertisements are not allowed. If advertisements were allowed, green and red brothers would have long gone to give out leaflets. Seeing that the green and red brothers were lowering their heads and not saying a word, Yi Hua asked gravely, "Just say it. What kind of cooperation do I need to have in order to restore the liveliness of this place?" "Your Honor. We need a wave of advertisements," Zi Shan said respectfully. "It is impossible for us not to advertise." Yi Hua didn't want things to be like this. It makes it seem as if I am begging them to come over and live in this place. However, if we don't advertise, it seems to be very boring for us to just wait here. LV Liang said respectfully, "Your Honor, we can go and take over a few small villages right now and let them know that there is such a place here. After letting them experience the environment here, the news will slowly spread out, and the surrounding people will come over and live in this place. If there is liveliness, there will be resources." Yi Hua tightly wrinkled his brows, and after pondering for a long time, he said, "You guys go and make the arrangements. If there isn't enough manpower, you guys can also call over other people." After the 5 heard what Yi Hua said, they were all delighted. As long as His Honor is willing to open up the conditions, things will be much better. I only need 1 month. I can guarantee that 1/5 of Wushu Empire will be able to live in this place. In just half a year's time, this place will be able to become popular. Looking at the green and red brothers leaving, Yi Hua sat on the dragon throne paralyzed. This position is truly not easy to do. How the hell am I supposed to be an emperor? This is not interesting at all. Forget it, it has been a long time since I went to look for Yutong. I reckon that I will have to coax her again. During this period of time, I have neglected Yutong. What a pitiful little fellow, I will just let you eat my undergarments." Along with Yi Hua loosening up the policy, the green and red brothers brought along their wives and began to advertise in the surrounding areas of the city. The effect was quite good, and in just a week's time, Yi Hua could see figures appearing one after another at the city gate. This caused Yi Hua to be very excited. As expected, I, the Supreme Overlord, still have the way to rule a country. Even without relying on martial power, I am still formidable. Meanwhile, Wei Chang received Yi Hua's secret mission. After all, I am not here to play around with the way to rule a country, I am here to take revenge. The plan is about to begin. Outside Gouda Principality country, at this moment, Wei Chang and Tang Wei walked onto the road, and the two looked at the city wall outside Gouda Principality country. In their hearts, they only wanted to say that this city wall is too low. Compared to Wushu Empire's city wall, this city wall is just plain and unadorned. The bluestone on the city wall was indeed very hard, but if it were to encounter a powerful figure, it would not be able to withstand a single blow. However, there were a lot of people here. Just like the road that Wei Chang was on, the road was filled with people who were entering the city. Some of the people were sitting on ordinary carriages, while the nobles were sitting on luxurious carriages. Furthermore, the weather here was not bad, unlike Wushu Empire, which was filled with snow. Uncle Wei, it has been a long time since we went out like this. Tang Wei said lightly while hugging onto Wei Chang's arm. After being together for more than 6 years, this Uncle Wei was simply not at all perturbed, not even touching onto Tang Wei's waist. Sometimes, Tang Wei would even question herself, am I not good-looking, am I not sexy? Even if the current Wei Chang was still very well-behaved, he still didn't do something like hugging onto Tang Wei's waist. Sometimes, Tang Wei really wanted to ask Lai Gu to teach Uncle Wei how to flirt with girls. Look at Zishan and Li Hun, how happy are they? Wei Chang said with a slight smile, Xiao Tang, we are here to complete the mission that his honor gave us. Tang Wei, Uncle Wei is just so unromantic, and only I am able to endure it. If it was any other girl, they would have long gone crazy. Uncle Wei, do you love me? Tang Wei said in a low voice, and her tone carried hidden bitterness. Wei Chang went into a daze for a moment, then said, of course. Then, why don't you express it? Express? How? Tang Wei, from the looks of it, Uncle Wei, you don't even love me anymore. Tang Wei was quite angered, and sometimes, she really wanted to knock onto Uncle Wei's head. However, she didn't dare to, because her heart ached for Uncle Wei. Wei Chang lightly stroked onto Tang Wei's hair, rest assured, if I don't love you anymore, I will notify you in advance. Chapter 750. Looking at the unhappy Tang Wei, Wei Chang lightly held onto her hand, I was just joking with you, don't take it seriously. Uncle Wei, I don't like this kind of joke. Tang Wei said very seriously. Wei Chang also realized that the joke just now was a bit too much, and, I won't do it anymore. Uncle Wei, I want a child. Tang Wei also threw caution to the wind. Uncle Wei, just say it or not, I won't beat around the bush anymore. Child. Wei Chang was puzzled, he never thought that he would have a child. Tang Wei nodded her head, and, child. Let's talk about it after this mission is over. Wei Chang had not thought it through, giving birth to a child was a big matter, he could not be too hasty. Tang Wei just wanted to enjoy the process of giving birth, but Uncle Wei actually did not fall for it, what kind of man could be so straight? A boyfriend who had been dating for 5 to 6 years and did not even touch him, how despairing would that be? Love also needed fertilization, only when the two of them were together can they be filled with happiness. Stop. Just when the two of them were talking about giving birth to a child, a city gate guard wearing a bronze armor shouted out. Wei Chang and Tang Wei looked at the man with a face full of stubble, they were a bit puzzled, there are so many people walking in, why did he stop them? The surrounding guards looked at them with a frivolous smile, as though they were already used to it. It was mainly because they were attracted by Tang Wei's appearance, that's why they were in a difficult situation. Wei Chang and Tang Wei came with a mission, so they had to be careful. Big brother, what's the matter? Wei Chang's acting skills were not bad now, this kind of lowly attitude was simply done vividly. In addition, the two of them were dressed very plainly, with one look, one could tell that they were the kind of people that were easy to bully. Where did you come from? The guard asked in a deep voice, his pair of tiger eyes staring at Wei Chang, as though he wanted to give Wei Chang pressure, because Wei Chang was quite cooperative. Wei Chang was uneasy, he pulled Tang Wei behind him, and Tang Wei also appeared to be afraid. This kind of expression made the guards even more happy, they liked to see these people being afraid. Big brother, we escaped from Lingtai country. Wei Chang was terrified. The guard chuckled, Lingtai country. That small place still hasn't disappeared. Wei Chang lowered his head and did not speak, while Tang Wei tightly grabbed onto the corner of Wei Chang's clothes, as though she was very helpless. The couple's acting skills were top-notch. The guard stretched out his hand. His meaning was clear. If he wanted to enter the city, he had to know his place. Big brother, we really don't have any gold coins on us. Then get lost. People like you are wasting the Gouda Principality's food if you enter the city. The guard sneered and gripped the spear in his hand. It seemed like he was going to attack if Wei Chang did not know what was good for him. There were also people like Wei Chang in the surroundings. When they heard the guard's words, their expressions changed slightly. However, they still lowered their heads and silently walked into the bustling Gouda Principality. Just as Wei Chang was thinking about how to enter the city, a luxurious carriage suddenly stopped, and a sweet-sounding voice sounded out from the carriage, "What's going on?" When the guard saw the grade of the carriage, he immediately knelt. This was the carriage of an earl, which was a powerful existence in the Gouda Principality. Moreover, from the sound of the carriage, it should be the young miss of the earl's mansion. He had heard that the young miss of the earl's mansion was a genius. Didn't she go to the Tianliang sect? Why did he suddenly come back? "Miss, it's nothing." The guard was a little nervous. "That's good." The voice of the woman in the carriage had a spirituality to it. From her voice, one could tell that this woman was very kind. "Follow me into the city." The woman's voice sounded out once again. This allowed Wei Chang to let out a sigh of relief. We can be considered to have entered the city using the normal method. Wei Chang and Tang Wei followed behind the carriage and entered the city. "Uncle Wei, the woman in the carriage seems to be very powerful, should we?" Tang Wei said in a low voice. "This is a good opportunity." This time, Wei Chang received the mission from his honor, and there was only one goal. To have Gouda Principality send out their army to attack Wushu Empire, and Yihua wanted to use a war to make a name for himself in northern Liang. Yihua naturally knew that when my Wushu Empire matures, Gouda Principality would naturally attack Wushu Empire. However, that would take too long. After all, I have to arrange for someone from my side to enter Gouda Principality and start a rumor. Wei Chang naturally knew that his honor was already impatient to start a war, and thus, he had to complete the mission as soon as possible. His original plan was to spread the news of Wushu Empire within the city, and the news would naturally reach the ears of Gouda Principality's king. However, after encountering this woman who had power and influence, Wei Chang had another thought. "Let's see how the situation goes first," Wei Chang said in a low voice. The two followed the carriage and continued moving forward. Wei Chang and Tang Wei discovered that Gouda Principality was indeed bustling and overcrowded with people. The housing prices of houses were definitely ridiculously expensive. Compared to Wushu Empire, his honor's territory was too cool. Even if the surrounding villages were to be attracted over, his honor's territory would still be very cool. Right now, Yihua was thinking of all sorts of ways to increase the population of Wushu Empire. He even wanted to arrange for a monster to attack the city and flatten the other three countries, then drive all of the people into his territory. That would be perfect. However, doing that seems to be cheating. Am I that kind of person? What kind of joke is this? I want the people to be willing to come over and live in my territory. I will give them 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, and they will be able to enjoy the treatment of a resident. The carriage slowly arrived at the west side of Gouda Principality. Wei Chang and Tang Wei discovered that the west side of Gouda Principality was filled with big courtyards or mansions. With just a look, they could tell that those were the residences of high-ranking officials and nobles. After walking for a short while, the carriage stopped in front of a mansion. Wei Chang looked at the signboard. Mu Residence. On the bottom right of the signboard, there were 2 words printed. Earl. Uncle Wei, your background is quite big, Earl. Tang Wei said in a low voice. Wei Chang nodded his head. Male, Z, Earl, Marquis, Duke. This Mu family was an earl, and in Gouda Principality, it was also a big family. A maid walked down from the carriage and placed a small wooden stool at the side. Then, the maid stretched out her hand. A tender and small hand could be seen on the maid's hand. Then the maid stepped onto the wooden stool and got off the stool. Wei Chang looked at the girl. Her age does not seem to be more than 20 years old. Her skin was white, her cheeks were pink, and her temperament was refined. She was beautiful, but not overbearing. Her entire body was pure white, just like a white lotus that was bathing in a snowy mountain. A trace of a smile could be seen on the corner of her mouth, giving off a kind of amiability and sweetness. Mu Ran looked towards Wei Chang and Tang Wei, who were at the back of the carriage. When Mu Ran saw Tang Wei, her gaze was filled with amazement. "What a beautiful girl! What are you two doing?" Mu Ran asked with a gentle smile. Wei Chang took a deep breath, then began acting. Chapter 751. Tang Wei was very surprised at Uncle Wei's eloquence. He was too amazing. In such a short time, he could think of such lines. The maid beside her said softly, "Miss, Master and Madam are waiting for you inside." This maid had a mean look on her face. She looked at Wei Chang and Tang Wei with disdain. Especially when she looked at Tang Wei, she wanted to scratch her face. "Who told you to be so beautiful?" Mu Ran nodded her head and walked towards the door. The guard standing in front of the Mu mansion opened the door. Wei Chang and Tang Wei's heart sank. "Can't we sneak in?" Just when Wei Chang and Tang Wei were about to leave, Mu Ran shouted, "Come in with me." "Miss." The maid behind her was very confused. Mu Ran said softly, "It doesn't matter if there are 2 more servants. You go and arrange it." The maid responded and looked at Wei Chang and Tang Wei with a venomous gaze. At this time, Wei Chang and Tang Wei were secretly happy. They finally sneaked in. "You wait here." The maid shouted coldly. She had a sharp mouth. One look and one could tell that she was not a good person. Wei Chang and Tang Wei did not say anything and stood at the side waiting. "Xiao Tang." "Uncle Wei, what's wrong?" Tang Wei asked softly. "Think of a way to replace this maid." Wei Chang felt that it would be better to get close to this girl. Tang Wei was also not a good person. She nodded her head and replied. At this time, Mu Ran walked into the main hall. She saw her parents and brother. Beside them sat a gorgeous man. She did not know him. "Lord Father, Lord Mother, Big Brother." Mu Ran bowed slightly and called out. "Ran, you are finally back." The woman looked at her daughter who she had not seen for 3 years. She walked over excitedly and hugged her daughter. The man sitting on the chair looked very gentle. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was Muangwa, an Earl of Guda Principality. Beside him was her brother Muda. He was a little thin. His eyes were a little dark. His face looked a little weak. He gave people a feeling that he often went to brothels. In fact, the Mu family was just a small baron. But Mu Ran had shown talent since she was young. Gradually, she was noticed by the king. The Mu family also rose from baron to earl. Mu Ran was also sent to Tianliang sect to study. This month, she came back to visit her family. She had not seen her family for 3 years. Mu Ran leaned into her mother's arms, her beautiful eyes a little red. "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back," Huang Chihua said gently as she caressed her daughter. The gorgeous man sitting beside him smiled and said, "Lord Mu, it's really my good fortune today to be able to see the famous genius of the Guda Principality." Muangwa was already used to being called Ghost Genius. Even the king used this title. "My daughter is just a little smarter," Muangwa said humbly. Standing up, Xia Yu smiled. "Then, I won't disturb Lord Mu any longer." "Mude, send them off." Yes, father. Mu Ran gave a slight bow to Xia Yu as a form of sending him off. Since there were no outsiders around, Muangwa walked to his daughter's side and patted her on the shoulder. Ran Air, you've worked hard. Father, it's not hard on me. Mu Ran held her father's hand and felt that it was much rougher. How is the Tianliang sect? You weren't bullied, right? Muangwa asked concernedly. He was most worried that his daughter would be bullied over there. He heard that the disciples of the Tianliang sect were all prideful and arrogant. Mu Ran said tenderly, Father, how could that be? Senior brother and senior sister treat Ran Air very well, and the Tianliang sect isn't like what the rumors say, it's very well behaved. Hearing what their daughter said, her parents felt relieved. Huang Qiuhua held on to her daughter's hand and asked curiously, Ran Air, are there any handsome boys in the Tianliang sect? You are almost 20 years old, other people at your age are already having children. Mother, Ran Air is still studying, I haven't thought about it. Mu Ran laughed lightly. Qiuhua, Ran Air is so outstanding, you don't have to worry. Ran Air, have a good rest today, tomorrow morning, go and pay a visit to the king. Alright, father, who was that just now? Mu Ran asked curiously. Muangwa said in a low voice, that was the royal family of Lingtai Kingdom, Xia Yu. Lingtai Kingdom. Why did the royal family of Lingtai Kingdom come to our house? Mu Ran asked curiously. Sister, you have been away for 3 years, there are a lot of things that you don't know. At this moment, Muda walked into the house and laughed. With a smile on her face, Mu Ran called out, Brother. Sister, ever since you left that year, the king revoked the protection he gave to Lingtai Kingdom. Muda said faintly, seemingly not taking what Muda said to heart. Ah! However, Mu Ran cried out in surprise. Muangwa knew his daughter's personality and said with a smile, Ran Air, you just came back, quickly go and take a rest, I will come and call you when the meal is ready. Alright, father. Mu Ran nodded her head, then followed her mother back to the backyard. Muangwa looked at his son and said in a low voice, What are you talking so much about? Don't you know that back then, your sister tried her best to protect Lingtai Kingdom? Yet, right after Ran Air left, the king revoked the protection he gave to Lingtai Kingdom. If Ran Air were to find out about this, who knows what she would say? Father, I'm sorry. If you were half as smart as your sister, I would already be satisfied. Every day, you only know how to fool around with your group of scoundrels. Muangwa reprimanded his son, then left. Muda's expression changed slightly, as though he was unwilling to accept this. Ever since he was young, the one his parents praised the most was his sister. Even when he was described as a pile of shit, he didn't dare to say anything. With a gloomy mood, Muda walked out of the main hall and saw Wei Chang and Tang Wei waiting for him at the corner. When he saw Tang Wei, Muda's eyes were filled with amazement. This woman. So beautiful. Although she was dressed plainly, it couldn't conceal her beauty. Where did these two come from? You are. Muda quickly adjusted his emotions. He was also a frequent customer of the brothel, and it was rare to see such stunning beauties. Young master, we were brought here by young miss, Wei Chang said softly. She was actually someone's wife. What a pity. What a pity. Muda shook his head and left, as though he wasn't interested in someone's wife. Why are you two still standing there like idiots? Come here. The maidservant shouted at Tang Wei. Her tone was harsh, and it sounded like she was in a bad mood. This caused Tang Wei to be very unhappy as well. I have to think of a way to deal with this matter. Wei Chang was arranged to chop firewood, and Tang Wei was arranged to wash clothes. For the sake of his honor's mission, the husband and wife had no bottom line. Mu Ran returned to her own bedroom. The layout of her bedroom was the same as 3 years ago, there wasn't any change at all. It seems like there was someone cleaning the bedroom every single day. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.